Good to see you. How you been?
Great, man. Great. Can't complain. Life is good, other than the bummer that is 2020. I think we've been able to make the best of it. I know you mentioned it's unfortunate to look at it this way, but I know you mentioned this is one of your most profitable years ever.
Yes.
It's been pretty lucrative for me as well. I mean, that's not the end all be all to gauge our success, but it sure is nice,
Yeah, for sure.
compared to how some other people have it, and losing their jobs and businesses. Really unfortunate, but that's life. You gotta swing with the punches or whatever stupid.
Sometimes it's just good to be in the right spot. And yeah, like we're super lucky to be in the industry that benefits from like everybody just sitting on their asses and being at home on the internet. But like if you're in, I don't know, like if you work your ass off and you're in the hotel industry, like it's just tragic, right? Like it just fucking sucks. So just some spots that you just can't do anything.
Yeah, hopefully everything slowly but surely comes back to normal and be business as usual throughout the world, and it shouldn't be too devastating for all the people that have been affected.
Yeah, looking forward to being able to do more stuff though, for sure. Be nice to go, be nice to travel, be nice to get to carry on and shit and get back to life.
Yeah, it makes you appreciate the things you got until they're taken away from you, and I think in the end it will be somewhat of a net positive as people appreciate their freedoms. I don't know if that's the right word, but just the ability to do things, and just mass culture is just weird.
Yeah, mass culture sucks, man. And definitely don't disagree with like people being like myself, just speaking personally, like more appreciative of kind of like what was taken away, right? Like it's just a lot of like the sweeter parts of like all of the core things are still there. I can go to the grocery store and get food. Like we've got a roof over our heads. All of those core things are still there, but like traveling, that's a sweet part of being alive in 2020, and going to nice dinners and stuff. Like it's not the same, like you said, when you've got everyone in masks and stuff. It's not the same. And like that's the only thing I'm missing. Which like I said, I'm blessed in that regard. But like the sweeter parts of my life have just been tainted, right? Just like everybody else's. So yeah, looking forward to it being over.
Yeah, I think everything will be okay in the long run. Just stay strong, stay positive, and sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do to survive. And this is just another test in the journey we call life.
Yeah, for sure. So have you been to like casinos and stuff? Are you living in Vegas? Where are you at?
Yeah, Vegas. I've been to a few poker rooms, Bellagio, the Wynn grand reopening. Of course, like the first, not to get too much into COVID. It's a poker podcast, but
sure.
I'm as paranoid as they come with a lot of things, which could be a bad thing, could be a good thing, depending on how you look at it. But yeah, for the first 3 months, I was just locked down. Like I remember one day, my girlfriend, we had like a deal,
Yeah.
I see you, you see me, we play with the dogs, we got the internet, we're good. We got food. I woke up and she said, I went to Costco, and I just lost it. I was like,
oh shit.
I really lost it. I'm like, so now, okay, now I can't see you for 2 weeks. You did this to yourself. You're going down. I'm not going down with you.
Oh,
we had
Jeff,
a deal.
You're awesome.
But I don't know. Some people might find that weird, but you got to kind of get to know my personality to understand how I'm kind of quirky in certain.
Sure, dude. Hey, man, everybody's got their thing, and like if you guys agreed not to see each other, that's it's like I said, it is what it is. Somebody goes outside the circle, and you're like, yo, you went outside the bubble. You can't come back into the bubble for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm just torn. I'm like, you did this to me too. I want to see it.
Sure,
of course, I just said, all right, fuck it. I didn't go 24 hours without seeing it.
Good for you. Nice.
But yeah, overall, live poker definitely different. I made a few vlogs about it at Bellagio and the Wynn, just showing the plexiglass, the masks. Yeah. It's just a completely different environment when it comes to socializing.
Yeah, for sure. Which is a big part of the game, like no doubt.
Huge part. I think it takes a lot of the enjoyment and gamble away from recreational players. The paranoia that they're going to get sick if they choose to play in this environment, and just not being able to see someone's face. They show you a hand and you just see their eyes. You don't know if they're bluffing you, as a friendly thing or as a gotcha bitch type of thing.
Sure, right.
But it's still going. Rooms are still running. They're doing the best they can. Poker rooms are a net not really a very profitable venture for casinos anyway. It's just a bonus.
Sure.
The floor space is better used on slots.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. More lucrative games.
But yeah, can't complain. Vegas is good. Still see friends, dogs. I just think the culture where you don't wear a mask, it's like if you wore a mask around a friend, like I know from what I can tell, you've been pretty secluded. You're not really going out doing much.
No, not too active.
It's just weird how it's almost an insult to wear a mask around someone you know.
Sure.
You're like pretty much saying, you probably have a disease. I don't want to be around, I don't trust you.
Yeah, it's weird.
But if you're walking through a casino, you have to. I mean, there's like, you'll just get kicked out of the casino or any business in Las Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely weird to try to balance that too, right? I mean, it's actually we got invited to again, this isn't supposed to be a COVID podcast, but we got invited to just go to a friend's house, but to get there we have to take a ferry, and I was just like, I saw that they just closed down Toronto in Canada, so like we're having a surge here. So they closed down Toronto again, and they closed down Quebec, I think, or at least parts of Quebec on October 1st, I think, I want to say, but I could be wrong about the date. And I was just like, don't really feel like taking my family on the ferry, bro. And so like we just didn't go. And it's just like, it's explaining that like why you're not going is like kind of awkward. I mean, it's just like there's just no. It's like it's because I'm a wuss. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to put my family on a ferry, and like I just don't know what it's going to be like. So yeah, I can relate. It's just all these like social interactions that are totally standard have just become a little weird, which sucks. So
very weird. I always ask myself from just like pure analytical nature and pretty much all things in life, from the movie Girl Next Door, where they say, "Is the juice worth the squeeze?" Yeah,
man, I've said that on the stream.
Have you? Okay.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
What it comes down to, is the gamble worth it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I'm laying it out. I'm just like, I mean, I love this guy. He's awesome and everything, but I can fucking wait I can wait a little while to see you, bro. It'll be all right. So we're good. So.
Yeah, it's weird. And just to wrap this up, the two biggest losses I had when it came to the lockdowns in March or whatever was my hobbies, which were, going to the Wynn and playing poker, seeing everybody I know, great environment, and bowling. Bowling is my favorite hobby and pretty good bowler. And before this even happened, I made a quick little Instagram video of how unsanitary a bowling alley conditions are, especially in league play. The amount of interaction. What people don't notice is in a league bowling play, you're fist bumping every single shot. Your opponent, the guy on your team throws a strike, you give him a fist pound or a high five, a low five. You're just sharing. You're just constantly.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's the fun of it. That's the reason to go.
Yeah, it's the camaraderie, it's the brotherhood, it's the team.
Yeah.
And then COVID hits, and I'm like, we're fucked. We're never going to bowl again. But here we are. I got 2 leagues going. No one's getting sick, really. Yeah. And
awesome, man.
Yeah, just fist bumps all around. I actually calculated it. It's around 400 fist bumps a night.
Wow.
Which it adds up.
I'm more impressed that you calculated it than the fact that it's 400 fist bumps. Like I'm way more impressed that you calculated it. That's awesome.
I didn't have like a little
I don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't care if you like you took like 10 in like the first 5 minutes or something and just like multiply it out and you're like, it comes to 400. I don't care how you did it. It's awesome. Good for you.
Quick math. Not really a germaphobe like Putty on Seinfeld, but they exist. They're there. You might not be able to see them, but germs are there. Might as well wash your hands. I've always been a big hand washer before we eat dinner.
Sure.
People have made fun of me for leaving the, steakhouse table saying, I'm just going to wash my hands. About to touch some bread.
No one's making fun of you in 2021. When 2021 comes around and you washing your hands before dinner, you're going to be the man. This guy's cool. Look at him. He's washing his hands all the time. Everyone's going to love you.
Yeah. Well, ahead of the curve, if you will.
There you go, baby.
Little hand sanitizer.
In, like, advanced learning programs, fucking elementary school. Like you're just way ahead of everybody else, dude. You're way ahead.
Yeah, but you got to make the best of it, like I said, and that's pretty much how everything is in Vegas when it comes to bowling and poker and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you know, but I used to live in Vancouver.
I didn't know that. I did not.
Yeah. No. 2013, 2014, right across from Granville Island, if you know where that is.
Yeah, I know where that is for sure. Yeah, so you live downtown, like downtown-ish.
Yep, just take the ferry over there, get groceries, and just grind.
Good for you, man. So did you have any like favorite restaurants or anything that you like to go to when you were here?
I went to a bunch. I was pretty active on Match.com, so I'd like grind all day and then
grind all night.
Yeah, grind.
Sure.
Well, God, I kind of forgot the name. There was that chain. Nando's Chicken.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's just
a date spot.
No, that's a I'm grinding tonight, but it's work grinding, and then I'm having Nando's. Sure.
I'd get two orders, one for now, one for late night. So because I didn't have a car or anything. Fritzs Poutine. Have you ever been there?
No, but it sounds delicious because poutine's amazing.
World famous poutine. Fritz is on Davie Street, I believe, downtown.
Oh shit! You really did live down in Vancouver. You really know what's going on.
Yeah,
like
right.
Popping off streets and everything. Whew.
Yeah, and just it was a good time. I was there for 2 6-month stays. That's all they could allow me to. I didn't have citizenship and stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah.
So you're playing a lot of like online during that time then?
Yeah, that's all I did. Full Tilt was still going in stars, just like Full Tilt and stars all day.
Okay, sure.
And I did well, but barely profited after. I mean, my furnished apartment was like $2,500 a month.
Yeah, sure.
Which just cuts right into the profits.
Yeah, of course.
And I left my house in Vegas, which I just bought, empty.
Oh shit! You didn't rent.
So I'm just like,
that's tough.
This is not. I'm just like shooting myself in the foot here, and I'm paying taxes in America to travel to Vancouver, and it's just
getting murked. Yeah, difficult. You have to be like really killing it to like. You just have to be running good, really, to like make all of that work.
Yeah, very frustrating, very tedious process just to be in a foreign land. But overall, summers are nice, winters are gray. Shout out to Vancouver.
LOL.
Home of Lululemon.
Good description though. Good description. So you mentioned that you were doing really well through COVID. So were you just crushing it online? Like how much it sounds like you must be.
Yeah, just more so with my deal with ACR, getting signups and promoting them, and just doing like different challenges on Twitch, getting more subscribers on Twitch. So
you're just building, just like social media builder.
Yeah. I'm no expert at it, but I do my best. Just trying to see what works, what people respond to, getting the interaction, and just promoting products that I believe in. Whether it's like some clothing, CBD oil,
BBZ poker, of course. BBZ poker.
BBZ. I mean, I wake up every morning and I was like, "What's the quantitative way to brush my teeth?"
There you go, baby. There you go.
I want to do it optimal. I don't want to be exploited when I'm brushing my teeth.
There you go.
But no, I did purchase. I mean, you guys have been very nice to me. You gave me access. Let me take a look at the ICM course. Great stuff there. Love those final table reviews. The pre-flop ICM course. And I did buy the $14 quantitative strategies. Watched that like 3 times. I did have some questions to ask you about the geometric sizing.
Sure, go for it.
I know your goal is to size it so flop, turn, and river. We're getting it in. Sure. At what point do you deviate from that and being like, all right, we're 100 blinds deep. Am I really going to double pot to get it in? Or do you just say, okay, standard 30% on the flop, 75% on the turn, 75% on the river?
Sure.
We're not greedy.
Yeah. So in a lot of scenarios, a different bet sizing sequence will work better on the flop. So in a lot of different situations, because at the end of the day, it's all about whatever makes the most money, right? And so you don't always have a perfectly polarized range. I don't want to get this to get too technical, but essentially what's going on is you can use different sizings on the flop more often than not. And then on the turn, typically when the turn is a turn that's relatively static, so things didn't change much. And in particular, what I mean is the frequency that your opponent has really strong hands didn't go up. So the easiest example of the frequency of your opponent having really strong hands going up would be when a flush draw fills, right? So let's just, you open from early position, I call in the big blind, you bet the flop, I call. On most turns, if I just called the flop, you're going to be pretty far ahead with your really strong hands because I didn't check raise the flop, right? That's on turns where that's not true. You're probably going to be sizing small. So like if the turn filled out a flush draw, if the turn filled out a lot of the types of straight draws that I would have, if the turn paired, like the second card, where maybe you're not going to bet the flop as much with second pair, but I'm going to check call with second pair, and I'll never check raise with second pair. So the frequency that I have really strong hands went up really dramatically. Maybe the frequency you have really strong hands didn't go up so much. Those types of situations, the in-position player is likely to be betting smaller, okay, than a geometric sizing. But if that's not the case, then it's very likely you're looking at a situation with really large bets, like on average. So that, if the flop were, 9-8-5 and the turn was like a deuce, or if the flop was Jack 10-4 and the turn was a 3 or something, which basically is a blank, right? Then the in-position player would be looking at those types of turns and using really big sizings. As far as how big should you go, going, like using 2x pot as like a ceiling for bet sizing is not on the turn is not unreasonable. What ends up happening if you go bigger than that is like ranges get really narrow, and it requires a really precise understanding of like how the river would work and across like a large number of rivers. And I haven't seen it be that viable personally to frequently go bigger than 2x pot on the turn. So if you're just trying to, like, I'm looking for some parameters, the ceiling would kind of be 2x pot on the turn, and you'd be sizing down on turns where relative to the geometric sizing, when the frequency that your opponent could have the nuts or really strong hands has risen dramatically, right? So.
Okay. Yeah. It was just, I've always been torn between, you just go with your normal sizings, depending on, a balanced strategy, or do you really just target playing for stacks, whether it's for value or bluff? Like when do you draw that line?
Yeah. So, like playing geometrically, so just sizing for stacks is for me, that is my normal strategy, right? So like there's not going to be something that's really competing with that. So again, if we to just stick with examples because it's easier for people, I think. If the flop was Jack 10-6 and I bet the flop to a number, it doesn't matter what sizing choice really. On the turn, if the turn were a deuce, it's very likely that you're going to see me check, right, as the in-position player, or bet very, very, very big. And it doesn't even really matter like what position we're talking about that I opened from. It's the board texture. You're very likely to see me execute a strategy that looks something like that. And if the turn instead were, if let's say the flop were Jack 10-6 with 2 diamonds, if the turn were the 9 of diamonds, you're not going to see me check or use a very big sizing to the point that it's geometric. You're going to see me check or bet like 60% or something, or see me check or bet like 50%. And that's because I'm very respectful of the fact that you can have really strong hands really often. And as a result of that, if I bet really large, your really strong hands will actually make up too much of your defending strategy versus my really large sizing. But if you have nothing but medium strength hands and I use a really large sizing on the turn, you're still going to have to defend those medium strength hands to adequately defend the turn. And so that's that's a big part of why it works the way that it does.
Okay, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I've been doing a similar strategy, not quite as intricate as yours, where the goal on the turn was always to either check or bet 1/3 of the effective stack size. Okay. So that way, with a polarized range, either I'm betting 1/3 of your stack, setting up a river jam, which is going to be easily like 67% of the pot or whatever, or I'm bet folded. So I'm implying we're playing for stacks on the turn, but we might not be. So
of course.
I'm leaving you guessing.
Sure.
And that's been one of the most helpful things that I've just kind of always implemented from 10 years ago or whatever.
Sure.
Just that 1/3 of my stack or your stack on the turn is just a key point out. But in watching your video, I'm like, okay, that kind of glad I was doing it right,
Sure. Yeah,
sizing, baby.
Yeah, trying to get stacks in. Sure.
Nice. Yeah, I'm glad. Hope everybody was able to.
Yeah, it can get a little bit technical, but yeah, hopefully some of it was picked up. So.
No, it's better. It's even better in the video when you show. Okay, I got ace queen here. We're going for 3 streets. He's got second pair. He's going to have to call us down some percentage of the time. Let's see what his range looks like. Okay, 40%. Boom, boom. Okay, cooler.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
And I think that's when I first started watching your stream, like a year ago. Yeah, when you back in the old place, drinking the blue drink. Boom, baby.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
Them apples.
Yeah, exactly. I remember.
One of the things that when I first saw you, I was like, wow, this guy is fucking batshit insane. He bluffs so much, and he just goes for 3 streets so thin. I mean, is this right? What? Putting on a show? I mean, is he just making shit up? But then as I kept watching, I'm like, wow, this guy's crushing. Okay, he's just got balls. He's not afraid. No one's ever said, Jordan, you're scared money.
No, it doesn't happen too much.
And I really learned a lot from that. Just saying, okay, which kind of reverts not to, one of the biggest leaps for me in my poker career was like back 10 years ago or whatever. I was just pretty much break even, slight winner, and then a backing company, Card Shark Chemist. I don't know if you remember them.
Yeah, the Card Shark I remember, but I'm not sure.
The Chemist.
I'm not sure. Anyways, keep going.
Anyways, they had a backing operation. They contacted me. They're like, "Hey, we like how you play. We want to put you in some 33s, 55s, and shit." And I was playing with me like 10s and 20s, and I was like, "Huh." So wait, first of all, these guys think I'm good. That's a nice compliment. Second of all, they think I'm so good they want to invest in me. Wow, and that really got my confidence up. Along with combining that with disregarding the money, just treating it like a video game, was the biggest leap for me by far. Because just thinking about, oh man, I don't want to lose $55. You can't think like that at all.
For sure. Zero.
It even helped me not to look at the payouts. Like I never wanted to know what was first. I was like, I'll just win this video game. I'll collect all the chips. Then I'll take a look and I'll feel good.
Sure. That's not a bad approach. I mean, like, there's some ICM stuff with payouts, but emotionally, like, that's definitely the way to go. One of the most common questions, critiques, mistakes I think that amateur players make is, you read the comment nowadays. It's read the comment all the time, like on YouTube or something, where someone says something like, "I would do that in a $33, but not in a $1,000," and it's like, doesn't matter, man. Doesn't matter. It's a game. Like, you bought in for $1 million or 50,000 or $5. Once you're playing, you're just playing the game, and like you just play the game the way you think the game needs to be played. Like the dollars you bought in for it's a sunken cost in economics parlance. Like, it's just gone. It doesn't matter. So you just play now, and so that's good. Like just trying to, like you said, just play and like let go of whether you bought in for 55 or whatever. Like, definitely can't, I definitely can't play and be like, I lose I play a 5K and re-enter and I'm like, I just lost my car. Like, that's not a good way to think about it. That's not a good way to think about it. You got to think about it some other way. That's not going to help you. So, yeah, don't start relating the money to like cars and houses and shit, because big downswing is like, you lose, you can lose a house in some places. So you don't want to think about that. Think about it some other way.
Yeah, and that's why if people are uncomfortable playing a 1K at the WSOP, I say, sell half the action to your buddy. That might make you play better. It might make you play worse because you're worried about, the bust out bad beat story to your buddy, but you can't think like that. It's just an investment. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Yeah,
totally agree. And if you're not comfortable playing 1Ks, then turn it into a 500, sell half. If you're not comfortable playing 1Ks, turn it into a 300, sell 67% or whatever, 70%, like whatever it is. So,
yeah. Just scared money don't make money.
That's right. I like that.
Awesome. So I got a bunch of questions that just came to mind. Just thought I'd run by you.
Go for it.
We didn't really do an intro. I mean, I guess.
Yeah, well, we can do an intro. We can do an intro whenever we want to do an intro. For now, we're just having fun.
In case you guys don't know, Jordan Drummond, aka Big Bluff Zinc, gets confused with Big Bluffs Inc. or Big Bluff Zinc. I'm going Zinc because it's BBZ, right?
Yeah, so it is actually Big Bluffs Inc. And the reason it's with a Z is because Z, whatever. I'm Canadian. Is because it just looked stupid when I wrote it out. So like when I wrote out Big Bluffs with an S, I just like looked at it and I was like, this looks terrible. And so I changed it to a Z and it looked better visually, which is stupid, but it did. Like, I liked it better, so I wrote it out. And then everybody else actually called me BBZ instead of like BBI. And BBZ sounds better than BBI. Like, it just sounds better. Yeah, BBI sounds, I don't know, BBZ. I like it better. So we ran with it. So, like when I was like kind of first starting and I would get on Skype calls with like all the guys playing like $6 sit and goes and shit, and we would just like yell at each other and scream while we were trying to gamble. It was BBZ, right? It wasn't BBI or anything. And so like it's just always stuck. Other people called me that, right? So like that's where it came from.
Okay, that's good. I'm a big fan of never creating your own nickname. Like, you can't be
I can't make it up.
Big Tom or whatever. You can't call yourself the assassin.
That's awesome. Yeah, you can't make it up. It's just too weird.
Yeah, you got to get it from your friends. Like, I got Boski in high school from a combination of the wrestler Val Venus a Ludacris song, and I think the Big Lebowski just came out. And I'm Polish, so Boski is my real name. I have a long Polish last name.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's awesome though. That's a creative. Like someone just stitched three things together like that.
It all just kind of happened at the same time. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Are you familiar with Val Venus?
No, but I am familiar with the Big Lebowski.
Okay. Yeah. They all kind of similar. All kind of worked out. I don't know. And it was Jeff Lebowski on the movie. And Jeff.
Yeah. That's awesome. I didn't know where it came from, so that's cool.
Yeah, we all get nicknames, but you got to earn them.
Yeah, like you said, you can't pick it. Like it's not like I chose it. I got on calls, people called me BBZ. Everyone called me BBC, so I was like, fuck, I'm BBZ.
That's fine.
Yeah,
that is fine. Okay, let's talk about online poker, the future, the present. A few things. Let's see. This was mentioned in your stream. If you guys don't, okay, let's backtrack. People always ask me for advice on my stream. How do I get better? How do I learn? I always tell them the same thing. I say, listen, first of all, don't pay for content right away. Make sure you like the content creator. So the two main ones I promote is BBZ and Raise Your Edge.
Yep.
I say go to their YouTube channels, check out their free videos. If you like the content, you like the guys, check out their website. You might have to pay for some content, but you get what you pay for. Sure. So other than that, I also talked about where is it at? Lost my train of thought. Oh. But yeah, I just said, you want to get better. These are the guys you want to go to. There's infinite resources. Check out these guys that are good players. You don't want to learn from bad players. You want confirmed crushers. I mean, stable of 50, 100 guys, and you're immensely profitable. They learn from you. It's not a coincidence.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's good. That's really good advice. Telling people to start with like the free stuff is great, which is a big part of why I started streaming to begin with. Was that you have to get that trust, right? Like people have to know, they have to hear some of your thought process and know how you think about things. Why you make decisions. Where does the line of reasoning come from? And they should get that for free. Like they should be able to get exposed to how you're thinking for free. Absolutely. If you're going to try to tell them, like, hey, look, you should invest in me, and I can help you win more. So if someone's doing that and they're not letting you, like, you just have to like make a leap of faith, and that person's totally in the dark going into it. That's a horrible plan. So it's a bad business plan for the other guy, in my opinion, and it's not the way that I think like you should behave if you're trying to like get content from someone. So yeah, I think streaming has opened that up a lot and been great. And I mean, like, Raise Your Edge, Ben, like he's great too. He creates good content. He's smart. I've been playing against Ben for years, so it's not coincidence that he and I are sitting on the other side of the table playing a high stakes game right now, almost like frenemies, whatever you want to call it. But Ben CB is like I said, he's someone I respect a lot. He's very good, and like I said, we've played tons of hands. So I'm not. It's not like both guys that you're supporting are, in my opinion, good people to learn from. And obviously, I'm speaking about myself when I say that, but. But we've got the history. Like Ben and I have history, and like I said, he's an awesome dude as well. So
yeah. So I say watch their Twitch stream, sit back, relax, enjoy. If you don't got 4 or 5 hours or whatever, check out the Twitch highlights. So you get a little free sample. If you like what you see, get the quantitative strategy. If you like that, there's other courses. Raise Your Edge, BBZ. These are the sites I believe in. So if you want to get better, that's what I always recommend people. I also do like private coaching for $200 an hour, just like a one-time. I'm just going to give you everything I know in 1 hour.
Sure.
Here's all the resources. I want you to get value for your money. It's not a big deal to me. I think it's pretty fun. If it can help people, that's good. The last thing I ever want to do is like make people feel like they didn't get the value.
Yeah, of course. Always got to deliver. Always got to deliver.
Yeah, I'm not starting any coaching sites or anything. I'm
sure.
I'm just an online player that likes to bowl. That's it.
Nice, bro. No, yeah, and I think that it comes through that you're the type of person who definitely just wants to make sure that people leave with like the good taste in their mouth, right? Like that's the whole point. Like you can always it doesn't matter what you're doing. You just want the other person to feel like they got what they wanted out of it, right? Like if they're disappointed or something, that's the last thing you want. So
I'm a big fan of like rating feedback, like Yelp reviews or Uber drivers that have a 4.9 rating. Okay. Uber driver has a 3.2 rating. Okay, there's something wrong here.
Sure.
Just like that Black Mirror episode where there's the social rating system. It could be the future. You ever seen Black Mirror?
I've seen lots of the Black Mirror episodes. I'm drawing a blank trying to remember what that one, but I love that like series because there's just so many of them. So I don't think it's like just a show, but like that whole collection of shows is just amazing. It's also scary as hell, by the way, because so many of it's like plausible. So it's terrifying, but it's also really good, man. It's super good.
Oh yeah, I remember I wanted to binge watch it when I first got hooked on it, but I had to stop myself at one episode a day because it would just end and I'd be like, oh fuck, I'm done. All right, I can't watch this before I go to sleep.
No, you can't. No, they're properly terrifying. I mean, they can give you some bad dreams, man. You got to watch that during the day.
It's so well done, though.
It is
for a show. It's like wow, just the quality, the timeline, all the props and the futuristic stuff. It just makes so much sense.
It's really tough. It's really tough to like pull it apart and be like, this is bullshit. Like this part of it sucks. Like it's really. I've had a really tough time with that, which makes the show even better. It's awesome. Yeah, love it.
It's the dystopian future. No spoilers, but it's called Black Mirror because.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Got a Black Mirror right here.
Yeah, everybody's got one. I've got mine. We've all got these. So.
Okay, cool. Random question. I've seen most of your streams. Big fan. Love and not to pump you up too much, but just the way you interact, answer all the questions. You never get real emo. You're always upbeat. There's no dead silence. It's always action. And you're always honest. There's no bullshit and there's no politicking, sugarcoating shit.
Sure.
You'll tell people how it is. And I like a straight shooter like that. I've got it built into my DNA that I never lie. So it might be a default. A girl says, "Do I look fat in this dress?" That's going to be a problem. But I think that's just a good baseline because once a friend starts lying to you, you can just really never trust them again.
Totally agree.
You never know when they're lying. You have to be like, wait a minute, is he lying right now? Is he going to show up? Oh, trust.
Sure.
I mean, you're a married man. Trust is very important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a businessman. I mean, like, people, like the married part, lots of people can relate to that. But the business part, especially when you think about like a staking organization, right? Like I send money to people who live in, I don't know, pick a country, it doesn't matter. Brazil, Czech Republic, anywhere. It doesn't matter. UK, United States, Canada, like, trying to think about anywhere else that's like kind of off the wall or it's like small, like really small. But anyways, it doesn't matter. I stake people all over the world. And, so what does staking mean? I mean, it basically means like, a 6-figure-ish line of credit, right, to like gamble with the promise essentially that like they'll pay me back if they win a bunch of money on the flip side, right? So like I'm going to support you while you go through this like $80,000 downswing, and then when you win this tournament for $100,000, you're going to send me my 80 grand back, and we're going to split up the $20,000 worth of profit. So. Yeah, trust. I know all about it, and it's if you don't have it, you don't have anything, right? Like it just nothing works. So that's like I don't want to get too outside of my domain of expertise, but like that's what causes like bank runs and things to freeze up, right? Is when people stop trusting things, all of the systems break. Like 2008 is when one bank doesn't trust another bank, right? So like when institutions don't trust each other, everything fails, right? So everything is about trust, and that's why. I have a YouTube video on the BBZ Poker YouTube channel where I mention like, your reputation, integrity, however you want to think about it, that really is everything. The whole world works as efficiently and smoothly as it does because, important players trust one another. And when important players don't trust one another, everything breaks. And so the more you can make yourself trustworthy and worth respecting in that regard, like the better off you're going to be. And it pays massive dividends. And so like screwing someone for like, an easy $10,000 or an easy $5 or an easy $25 or whatever, it's never worth it. Like it's just not worth it at all. So yeah, trust is massive. Now, yeah, I'm married, so it's big there too. But it goes way deeper than that, right? It goes through everything. So the more you can make yourself trustworthy, the more you can make yourself believable, credible, for genuinely good reasons. Like it's just the thing is. It's more profitable to be honest, which doesn't, people don't believe that, especially people, who look at people kind of skeptically. It's just way more profitable to be honest. It's way better for you to be someone that people can put all of their faith in. And it's just not even remotely close. Like whatever short-term upside there is to fucking someone over it's just nowhere close to like just taking the hit. And I don't care how bad it is either, really, to be honest. It's just you're better off not screwing that person, whoever they are.
Yeah, I think the trust in the poker world is often seen one of two ways. Either, yes, I can trust this guy completely, or, yeah, this guy has a history of screwing people over, which tarnishes their reputation. I know a lot of people, especially in Las Vegas, there's a lot of just unspoken things where it's all about who you know, to get things done. Oh, there's a line at the restaurant. Oh, Jimmy's working. Oh, he's got a table for us. Oh, funny how that works. Yeah. Or just like lines of credit that you'd have from mutual friends, or vouchers. Like I'm in chats online where people are vouching for $100,000 transfers online. Yep. Oh, I know Jordan's good for it. If he screws you, I'm on the hook. Yep. A lot of people don't know.
That's how it works. That's how it works.
Hard vouch is a scary thing.
Super intimidating thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think
so. A quick explanation. So for the public who don't actually know what a hard voucher is. So a hard voucher is literally what Jeff just said. So if I say I want I have $50,000 on one poker site and I want $50,000 on a different one, and so I go into this chat and I say look, I want $50,000 on ACR or something, and I have $50,000 on party. Can someone arrange? Does anybody want to trade? Right? And someone's got to send first. And so Jeff comes into the chat and Jeff's like, look, I'll hard vouch for Jordan if someone hard vouches for this other guy. If someone hard vouches for Bob, I'll hard vouch for Jordan. And so if Jordan doesn't deliver the $50,000, Jeff's the guy that's on the hook for it. And this is real. This is how we move money online now. this is how this is how high stakes players move money around. Someone's just like, yeah, I trust you. And there's no upside either. Jeff doesn't take any, I'm not paying Jeff for that. That's free. No. Jeff takes all that risk on. Jeff takes on all that risk for free, with the understanding there's some reciprocity, presumably, right? If Jeff needs to move $50,000, and I can hard vouch for Jeff and say if Jeff screws you, I'll take the hit for it. But outside of reciprocity, there's no money that's being Jeff's not getting paid for that insurance. He's just giving it for free. So that's how high stakes players move money around. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a little known industry, especially if you're traveling, you're in Europe, you want to do a conversion, you want to trade some Bitcoin for some euros, you got to cash out in some Asian casino. I mean, it's just a convenience, and you don't want to pay the currency exchange fee. I think it's one of the best things, just the trust and accountability that other poker players have for each other in these circumstances, where you might not see this in another industry. I don't know why I'm going back to this story, but make it real short. Once I went to Home Depot to return something. Long story short, they just wouldn't do it for $20.
Right.
And I forgot my wallet and I needed to buy something, and they just wouldn't, even though the item I had was worth more than $20, they wouldn't exchange. They didn't trust me. There's no trust. I tried everything at the Home Depot to just acquire $20. I'm like, can I panhandle? Can I ask employees? I offered to leave my cell phone as collateral.
Wow.
I'll be back. I just need a light switch. Sorry, sir. Even the manager got upset, I was flexing on him. He goes, I got a cell phone too. I go, yeah, it's not the point. I'm coming back.
Yeah, of course you're coming back.
I'm coming back. It was just a long thing where they just refused to trust me because they didn't know me.
Yep.
In the poker world, if I'm playing a live tournament, I need another $1,000 bullet. I can go to 10 people in the room that will give it to me because they know there's almost a 0.001% chance I'm going to screw them.
Yep.
And I think that's just one of the purest, most genuine things about a poker community that has a lot of black eyes, and this should kind of counteract, all the scamming and, cheating and all the negative things that happen.
They totally agree. Yeah. But people are very trusting and careful. For sure. We're more careful, I think, in 2020 than we were in 2012. But we're still we operate very smoothly on the basis of trust in a lot of instances. And if you think about how slow everything would be if it was instead of needing one hard vouch, you needed 4 because you need to split up every single transaction with 4 vouchers or something, or you needed to get 8. It would just be can't move money that way. You know what I mean? It just, the whole thing the glue just sets in, right? So the trust, right? It just speeds everything up, makes everything fast. Like you said, you go to Home Depot, they don't trust you, you can't do shit. So Yeah, and like speaking of Home Depot, I've got an equally funny story. I went into Home Depot to return something that was $7, and the line was just so long. I just like handed it to the person in front of me. I was like, I was gonna return this. I've been waiting here for like 6 minutes. The line hasn't moved. Here you go. Like, Merry Christmas. You can have this. I don't know if you want it. If you don't want it, pass it to the person in front of you. I'm out. Adios. And I just left. But yeah, my Home Depot story. That's it. It's completely unrelated to this one. But yeah, it did involve returning something. So
that brings up another great point. Time is money. I mean, how much? I think it was. What was that guy? Naval. You ever listen to Naval podcast?
I haven't. No.
Okay, he's like a real like philosopher.
Okay.
I don't know, investor. Just
sounds interesting.
But yeah, there's like short little 2-minute excerpts where he just talks, philosophically about life and opportunity cost and all this stuff.
Yep.
And one thing my buddy linked me to, which was really important to me, was paying people to do stuff that you don't want to do. Like, what's it worth to you? Like, how much is it worth for you to stand in line to return a $7 item? Mm-hmm. Not a half hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Is more than $14.
It took me 6 minutes. I waited and I was like, this was like the worst 6 minutes I've ever spent. And I just walked out. I was done. So I tried, but I'm not sitting here for this. So I just left.
But yeah, that was important because I remember the big moment was I had 2 dogs at the time, and I just remember picking up poop twice a week. And I was like, man, this sucks. I wish there was a better way. And then someone told me there's services that pick up your dog's poop for you. And I was like, well, how much does it cost? And there's a place called the Poop Magician. We make poop disappear. I was like, perfect. $30 a month, $1 a day keeps the poop away.
Wow.
I'm like, sign me up. It's worth it.
That's awesome.
Same.
That's awesome. I'm going to get a dog now. I'm going to call this fucking poop factory company, and we're going to be getting a Poop Magician, whatever. And they're going to come to my house. Like, I'm in. This sounds awesome. Now I'm getting the biggest fucking dog I can find. I'm not going to get a small dog. I'm going to get a big Roddy, something like that. I'm going to make these people come clean it up for $1 a day, and I don't even have to worry about it. That's amazing. I didn't know that existed. It's 2020. Everything exists. I don't know why I think things don't exist, but I didn't know that. That honestly, if I leave this podcast with nothing else, that's going to be worth a lot of money to me. So that's great. So thank you.
Yes,
life just got better.
I'm a big proponent in dogs. I've been promoting an organization called Adopt the Boxer Rescue in the East Coast, and there's not to get too much into it, but there's just so many homeless dogs compared to an influx of puppies that there's Amish puppy mills that produce these dogs for a profit. They treat them like cattle. They treat them like shit. They're just a cash crop. Sure. And if we get rid of people adopting puppies and just adopt a boxer or a stray dog or a shelter dog, it will make such a huge difference, and the puppy mills will shut down. So the problem will take care of itself.
Sure.
So if you're going to get a dog, please adopt. And
noted.
Great dogs out there. And the great thing about dogs is they're always happy to see you. You come home.
Yeah, I love that about dogs. I grew up with dogs, so I need a dog. Need a dog. I live here in apartments for a lot, like recently, so that's why I don't have one. But would like to get one for sure.
Nice. Well, you just got that new house. You got a wife, a kid. You're a whole business. Your hands are pretty full. But
dog time though. House, wife, kid, dog. Yeah. Gotta get the dog. Yeah, gotta get the dog.
I've heard the kid playing with the dog will free up a lot of the time when the kid wanted to play with you.
Oh, that sounds like a myth. I think that sounds like a myth. That sounds like a trick. But I like tricks, but that sounds like a good trick. I don't know if that's what's going to happen. We'll see. I think what's going to end up happening is Dad's going to have to take the dog out a lot. No one else is going to take the dog out, and then Dad's going to have one more thing to do. But we'll see if it's the opposite. We'll see if Dad gets more time.
True. It's just a buddy for the kid to play with.
No, yeah, she'll love it. Oh, she'll love it for sure. She'll love it for sure.
Nice. Okay, so I know from your Twitch streams you're a huge proponent of studying tools such as ICMizer, Range Converter, Pile Solver, and you made a great analogy, which I actually videoed and sent to a few of my friends that are like anti-Pile Solver. They're like, fuck that, I don't need it. I play $200 rebuys at live tournaments. I don't need to know this stuff. And, we go back and forth. But your analogy was, sure, you can bring a bow and arrow to a gun. I'll bring a gun. Good luck.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
don't want to acquire a gun, you might shoot me. No, probably not. But
yeah, I mean,
better to have the weapons in your arsenal, or else you're probably going to die.
Yeah, I mean, like 2020, it's just an art. Like poker is a people have been relating poker to warfare for as long as the game's existed. So I mean, it makes sense when you think about like the tools that you use as weapons, essentially, right? And so like I think it's appropriate, and I fully believe that. You go through human history, and every there are these like evolutionary leaps in technology where the people come in with. The guys who had stones have to fight guys who have bronze, who have to fight guys who have steel, who have to fight guys who have gunpowder, who have to fight guys, etc. And it just keeps progressing, right? And then for some reason in poker, there are these people, like there's this alternative school where it's just like, look, man, the guys with the stones really had it figured out. And like I'm sitting here with, with a peel solver equivalent of a machine gun or something. And I'm like, the stones? What are you talking about? You want to use rocks and pebbles and shit? Like, man, you got to use the machine gun. Like the peel solver, bunker solver, the 2020 tools, like these aren't tools that like barely work. Like when they first came out, I could understand people A, being skeptical, and B, like a number of years ago, like 7 years, like they just weren't that good. Like the tools weren't that good. But it's 2020. Like the technology is good. The technology is really good, and it's like everything else. And if you don't use it, then you want to be in the Stone Ages or whatever. Like you're screwed. So. Eventually, like I think the other problem with it is that you have lots of people who are still successful, and the reason for that is because the solvers are at least like relatively new, and so you have lots of people who have just played millions of hands, and that's not an exaggeration, that's not hyperbole. You have lots of people who have played millions of hands who are incredibly good, who got very good with the bow and arrow, and like they're so good with it that they can still crush today, and like that's totally reasonable, like that's totally fair. I get that, but that still doesn't mean that you want to be going the bow and arrow route. Like it's not even fucking close. You still want to use the solver, and as whatever the like most cutting edge tools are that can help you. And like when you can see how fast, like I can coach people very quickly in 2020 now, just in part because I've been doing it so much. But just like the my ability to use the tools has improved also. In part because I'm doing it so much, that I think like if you're playing and you don't want to use those tools, you should at least experience coaching from someone on like a kind of a one-on-one setting, from someone who does and who kind of really knows what they're talking about, so that they can show you what you're missing. That's that's kind of what I think.
Yeah, they can open your eyes to a lot of things you never thought of before. So you shouldn't just dismiss new ideas. You'd be like, oh, this guy might be onto something. And I mean, the math pretty much says this is what you should be doing.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to have a coaching session from Jordan for an hour. He went over a Mover Tracker database and saw all the frequencies, how often I defend the big blind, check raise percentages, and said, hey, this is too low, this is too high. You got to check raise more here, you got to fold more here. And I mean, that's invaluable. I mean, if you're not just going to feel it. You're not going to be like, yeah, I check raise about 32% in this spot. Yeah. No, you need a fucking database to show you and why that's good or bad. You can't just spitball these things. You have to actually do the work.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings me to a common spot, which really gets me, I don't know if the word is frustrated, but hopefully I can articulate this well. I know you say you don't really take notes on your opponents because it doesn't really matter. I'm not sure if this is the correct way of thinking about it, but you said, based on your GTO strategy, it doesn't really matter what your opponents do. I'm going to be playing as perfectly and balanced as possible. And when they make mistakes, I'm going to make profit. If they don't make mistakes, I'm going to break even.
Sure.
Is that
that's pretty close. That's pretty close. I will take notes when someone does something really extreme, right? So a big part of playing poker well is you start to appreciate that there are lots of different ways to play the same hand, and they're all good. So, that's where the idea of mixing comes from, right? The idea of mixing isn't that you're not just mixing for the sake of it. Like if you hear, Ben CB or some other high-level player saying like, yeah, like in this spot, like I'm going to mix here. I'm going to do something. I'm going to do this sometimes. I'm going to do this other thing sometimes, whatever. They're not doing it just for the hell of it. What they're saying is there are two roads, right? I can go down, the yellow brick road on the left, or I can go down the red road on the right. And the amount of money I expect to make by going down the yellow brick road is actually pretty damn similar, if not identical, to how much money I'm going to make when I go down the red road. So I'm going to just go down both sometimes. I'm going to go down the yellow road sometimes, I'm going to go down the red road sometimes, and I'm going to make about the same money. It doesn't matter which direction I go in. And since I'm going to get into this situation over and over and over again, like if you play a lot, that's what happens. You get into the same situation over and over and over again. You really shouldn't just be going down the yellow road or the red road, even though you make the same amount of money for going down both. You should just be going down both roads. So that's kind of like where mixing comes from. So once you acknowledge that that's true, the problem with it is that you start to appreciate that people can. There are all types, like someone checking back the turn or the flop even with pocket aces. Some people might take a note on that. I don't take a note. In a lot of situations, it's totally appropriate. It's totally reasonable. So there's nothing to note. Like, what am I going to take note of? Like, he did this thing that's totally standard. Cool note. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't help me. So now if someone instead, we'll use cash games because most people are more familiar with cash games. If you're playing if I'm playing a cash game and someone open shoves under the gun for 100 big blinds, dark, I'm gonna take the fucking note. If he open shoves and he just someone else calls, the person who calls has kings. I didn't know that he was shoving dark, but he flips his hand face up and he has 7-2 offsuit. I'm taking the note, right? Like that's pretty good information to have, because if I'm in the big blind and I know you're dark shoving or you're shoving 7-2 offsuit and I have Jack 10 suited, I'm snapping you off. So it's 100 big blinds, but I'll still make the call. And so that is kind of where it comes from. And so I will take notes, but it's just like the eagerness to take notes. Like some people, I feel like they want to write fucking books about people and like have these encyclopedias. And it's just like, listen, most of what someone's doing is probably reasonable. And it's the unreasonable parts that I want to take notes on. And those parts are just like kind of fewer and farther between, right? Particularly at high stakes, right? Which is where I mostly play. So, and then if I am playing really low stakes, I don't play there very often. So like, do I really want to write a book about all the mistakes people are making when I'm playing like a $55 tournament? I might, if I play a full schedule, maybe I play one game that's $50, and it's only because I ran out of space or something, ran out of games. I was having a bad day. ran out of games, lost too much money so far. Have nothing left but to play a $50 game. And so at that point, someone does something stupid. Do I want to take a note? Probably not. I'm never going to see the guy again anyway, right? Like I'm probably never going to see him again. But if you play those games all the time, and you see someone making really big mistakes, yeah, sure. Like if you know it's a really big mistake, I would definitely recommend taking the note. But it's just that's harder to track down sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I usually don't take in-depth notes. It's usually just like a color-coded thing. I got the fish tag, the over aggro tag, just real generalities. But it's always something where it's like, okay, this can't be profitable. Like, what is this? Like
right.
This, like, sure, they could be tilting. They could be the end of their session. You don't have a big enough sample size. That's why like a HUD is pretty important. But just like you said, the open shove, 7 deuce. Okay, they're a tilter or they're just a fish, or however you want to look at it. It's just more information. Information's power. We all know this. There's one thing I wanted to touch on for the people when they don't really understand why you would, like in the old Doug Polk videos when he's like, well, you could call, we could fold, or we could jam. And they're like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah, sure.
Just because they're all, similar values to,
right.
similar equities to the decision. And that's why, is it also true, like based on your PIO teachings and learnings, that you play Jack 10 as a call sometimes and a raise sometimes in a certain spot is to make you more balanced and unpredictable. So they can't be like, oh, Jordan always has a Jack 10 hand like in this spot. And it's like, no, sometimes he's raising, sometimes he's calling. You don't really know.
That's a part of it. Yeah. So it's to fill out both ranges. There are lots of different reasons. So one of the main reasons is that you should have similar expectation taking both actions. So like you should basically not be making more money calling, and you should basically not be making more money 3-betting. So that's one of the principles that will be underpinning that, is that the expected value of line A is relatively similar to the expected value of line B. So if I flat with Jack 10, I'm probably going to make the same amount of money as if I 3-bet it. So I could do either one. That's part of it. Now, why is it advantageous to do that? It's advantageous to do that so that if I 3-bet you, my range isn't just aces and kings, and so like I can hit a flop that's like 9-8-7, right? Like if the flop's 9-8-7 and I re-raise before the flop, that doesn't really necessarily hit me very hard. I have lots of hands like ace king or ace queen or aces or kings or whatever, and 9-8-7 is not good for me, but it might be good for you. If you called my 3-bet, you might have lots of hands like jack 10 or 8-9 suited or something. So in order to kind of nullify some of the advantage you might have, we try to get something called board coverage introduced into the 3-bet strategy to help us cover some of these flops that we would otherwise miss. So, and that is where the profit comes from having a hand like jack 10. The profit comes from basically being able to hit a flop that you would think I would have missed, right? So like I've hit a flop you think I might have missed. As a result of you thinking I might have missed it, you put in a lot of money. Right? You're like, oh well, you wouldn't play ace king this way. You wouldn't play this hand this way. I'm going to bluff you. I'm going to do this. And then it's like, well, I have the nuts. I have jack 10. And it's like, well, how the hell do you have jack 10? It's like, sometimes I can have jack 10. It's fine. And so that's sometimes. And so that's a big part of how it works.
You got to protect those ranges. And the other thing you say is, okay, this is worth about zero.
Sure.
So what's your thought process? And you're talking about EV, like long-term EV of this spot. You're like, you're indifferent.
Right.
Fold or call, both worth about zero. You just flip a coin in your head, say, okay, this time we'll call. Is that accurate?
Pretty much, yeah. So like when I'm saying it's worth about zero, that's almost exactly what I'm saying. Usually for it to be worth zero, I'm being put to a decision where I'm thinking about folding. So someone bets and I have, so like a classic example of this would be sometimes you've played your hand in a way and you didn't necessarily make a mistake, where on a particular river, your range is, for the most part, let's just say second pair, okay? Or even if your range is mostly top pair, but for whatever reason you don't have really, really, really strong hands, okay? And then let's just say your opponent bets 3 times the pot. So if you're thinking with narrative, you would just be like, okay, well, I'm just going to fold because he's bet really big, and this is scary, and I have second or third pair or top pair or whatever, but I don't have a hand that's capable of playing for 3x pot. So I just fold. The problem is, what if that's the only hand you have? Well, if that's the only hand you have, and you always folded it, then that would, and let's just say your opponent has no shortage of bluffs. Well, then your opponent can just always bluff to 3x pot and always make you fold. So that doesn't work. Like always folding doesn't work, right? So like mathematically, what should we do? We should basically call 25% of the time. Okay, fine. How much money do we make calling 25% of the time? Basically zero. We don't make any money, but it's break even to call. And so like at that kind of a clip, we'll break even if we do that, and as long as our opponent's range is balanced. And there's no, I could fold, I could call, but then this is why I use the math example just to refine things a little bit. The frequency will matter, so it's not necessarily like the frequency will matter. So it's not necessarily the case that like I could call, I could fold, my hand's worth zero. It doesn't matter what I do. It may very well matter what I do in terms of the frequency that I do it, right? So sometimes I'll say my hand's worth zero, and the bet is so big that I need to call here very infrequently, and I can just mostly get away with folding. And then, so like maybe someone bets like 7x pot or something, and then on the other side of it, maybe my hand is worth zero, but my opponent bet half pot, and we're in a kind of a similar situation where like I only beat bluffs, right? And if my opponent bets half pot, maybe I want to defend something more like 67% of my range. So maybe I have to call with this hand 67% of the time, which means I'm mostly calling. So again, in both situations, my hand's worth zero. In both situations, it's worth about zero. In one situation, I'm calling 25%. In the other situation, I'm calling 67%. Both, but does it? I don't know if that. I think examples are just better. Hopefully, that helps illustrate what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, the big thing that really makes me wonder what's better is these certain spots where, historically, you bet half your opponent's stack on the river with top 2 pair, let's say, and he check raises all in for a min raise.
Sure.
It's like, what was it called? Population tendencies. They just like always have it here. How often do you just say, okay, top 2 no good, fold, compared to, well, I'm getting 6-1. I have top 2. I have the top of my range.
Right.
What do you decide in that situation?
Well, I would say that for most of the hands that you think are kind of gross, your hand's worth close to zero, which means it won't really matter too much which direction you go. And usually when you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach, like, oh shit, I don't know if I should call or fold. This sucks. That means that you're at a decision where going left and going right, going down the yellow road or going down the red road, they're both worth the same amount of money to you in the long run. So those are the spots that people agonize over, but the truth of the matter is that like in the long term, there's no profit to be made, in those types of situations, as long as you're playing them well. If you're playing them really poorly, maybe you feel sick to your stomach and you shouldn't. Maybe it's a snap call and you feel sick to your stomach. Maybe it's a snap fold and you feel sick to your stomach. But for the most part, when you feel sick to your stomach, it's because your hand's worth 0, and you're just like, oh god, it's gonna be so miserable to fold. It's gonna be so miserable to call, and I don't know which one I'm gonna do. Well, then that means that essentially what you're saying is the EV of both decisions are the same, and you actually shouldn't agonize over it at all. It just doesn't matter. Okay, so that's part 1. Part 2 is, what do you do with those types of situations? Well, you want to think about your range, and you want to think about whether or not there are pieces of your range in this situation that are just basically better calls than the other pieces, like head and shoulders, right? So, or another way of thinking about it is, are there pieces of this range that are snap folds? And like, how much snap folding do I want to do? Are there a lot of pieces that are snap folds? If there are a lot of pieces that are snap folds and you have that top 2 pair hand, you probably just want to call, right? And if there are no pieces of that range that are snap folds, sometimes it's just like very difficult for you to have a bluff, and your opponent shoves anyway. And so, like, I've actually folded on stream in a situation just like this one. I had a flush. I bet the river, and I got shoved on in a multi-way pot. I bet the river. It got called. The big blind jammed, and I had a low end flush on a board that 3 flushed, and an ace was just like traditionally my opponent might bluff with the ace of clubs or something, which was the 3 clubs on the board, maybe bluffs with an ace of clubs or something, but. The problem was that the ace of clubs would have been a straight. So I was like, wow, it's really hard for him to be bluffing. Like, he's really hard for me to be bluffing. He could just call with a straight. He could just call here. So he's shoving. It's difficult to shove bluffs. It's easy to shove flushes that are better than mine. I actually did. It was a situation where I really didn't have very many hands that I was bluffing with at all. And I was like, well, in this spot, I do happen to have a flush. The board's unpaired, right? So my hand's really, 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 really good. But I have a difficult time bluffing here. I already got called. The other guy could have a flush. I have a low-end flush. Maybe I should just call with more of my medium-strength flushes or my high-card flushes. Now, I still got that feeling in the pit of my stomach that I hated this situation. But I wound up folding in that spot, right? So I think it just, you need to kind of think about, what do I actually have? Do I have a lot of hands that are really easy folds? Because if I had a bunch of air in that situation, I probably would have just called. If I had a bunch of really easy folds, I probably would have just called. But I got into that spot and I was like, I mostly have either the ace of clubs myself or a flush. And so if I just called with all my flushes, I'm just means I'm never folding. That doesn't sound like a very good strategy. So maybe I should fold some of my weaker flushes, right? And so I folded that one. And so that's not a really, really clear example because we don't have a hand history in front of us. But just thinking about what hands do I get here with again? Like, the 2 shortcuts are, do I have easy folds? If I have easy folds, maybe you want to think about calling with what you've got a little bit more. If you don't have easy folds, maybe you want to think about folding it. Do you block really effectively the way, the strong hands that he would have in this situation? Or do you have other hands that would really effectively block the strong hands he would have? Because if this hand doesn't do that, but other hands do, you should probably call it those ones, and maybe you can fold this one. That kind of thing. So, yeah.
Okay. I actually thought of a very famous hand you played that illustrates my population tendency spot. It was a 5K tournament versus Limitless, if you remember this.
Yeah, I remember the hand. This hand's fucking tragic. Keep going.
you don't want to bring it
up. Go for it.
Okay, Mac.
Just hurt me.
Hit him with the clip, Mac.
Sure.
No, but that was, in case you don't know, in case Mac doesn't bring the clip up, Jordan had the nut flush, and there was a pure, exactly 2-card straight flush, and his opponent bet the river. Jordan raised for value, clearly, and his opponent went back over the top when he blocked the nut flush and the second nut flush. So, and he just said, in this spot, no one ever bluffs here.
Yeah.
Little did you know, you're against one of the sickest humans ever, Limitless.
Yeah, and he bluffed.
And
yeah, so basically it was a situation where it was a multi-way pot, and I bet the river, and Limitless bet the river. Limitless bet the river into 2 of us. There was another player that was involved in the hand. I can't remember if that player called or not. I 2-bet Limitless, so I re-raised Limitless's bet, and then he re-raised again. And I think that's what happened. And the sizing choice means that I should have just called. So the sizing choice was a screw up. It meant that I should have just called. But I just didn't. The only way that I thought that he would So first of all, the sizing choice made me feel like he was underweight bluffs. Didn't really make much sense for him to have too many bluffs in this situation. If he was going to have a thin value bet, I would have thought it would have been the Jack of Hearts. But I had the Jack of Hearts in my hand. So I blocked the way that he would thinly value bet. So either he's bluffing in a situation where like I didn't think anyone would be bluffing, or he had a straight flush and he was bluffing because he's fucking limitless and I'm stupid. But that was a mistake, and mistakes happen sometimes. And yeah, that's the situation. And like people, I think when people watch, like they see the nuts and they have a difficult time. But in every single hand that I'm playing, like I'm not really just like, oh, I have like a really strong hand, like game over. It's always just thinking through the possibilities of what's going on and like whether or not. And I just didn't think people were like three betting in multi-way pots on the river. And like when I could easily just have the Queen of Hearts and just like always call. And the bottom line is like I do have the Queen of Hearts there a lot. I am always calling with all of the Queen of Hearts variations that aren't the Queen of Hearts, Jack of Hearts. So now maybe like I don't, someone and I don't have the hand in front of me. So I think at the time I thought I could have other queen high flushes. I think that that's still true right now, but maybe someone pulls it up and they're like, maybe you can't. And if I can't, then maybe it's more of a problem. But I know that that's like a lot of mumbo jumbo for a lot of people. But I'm just going through my memory to like try to play a hand that was painful, and that's the best I can do right now. So I made a mistake though. It's horrible. Oops. I'll call again. I'll call next time, Limitless. I'm calling next time.
I just remember when I watched that, I was like, all right, well, this guy hates folding. So it doesn't matter how much he's trying to rep a two-card perfect 4 deuce of hearts straight flush. He's never folding the flush here. But then you did. And then I was like, all right, is he doing this to make a viral video? Is this like for the YouTube views? Like, no, he's not doing that in a 5K.
No,
come on.
No way. 0% chance. I'm always trying to win. Like, I'm always trying to win. And it was just a bad fold. And sometimes I just like think about things and I just don't think about things properly. And that's just poker. I mean, like there's just nobody. It's not a game that like everybody plays perfectly. You can say, well, that's a really big mistake, and it's like, yeah, it is. I mean, in the sense of like I basically have the nuts. And so in some regards, it's a really big mistake. But on a net balance at really high stakes, I think you have to just think independently. And like it's not like, oh, it's standard, so like I'm going to do this, or it's not standard, so I can't do that. If you think that way, you can't win. Like you just can't. Like you can't win. First, like you can't win playing the strategy that the metagame is playing. I don't know if people know that, but like you can't win playing the strategy that the metagame is playing because that's by definition a break-even strategy, and then you pay rake. So yeah. Even if you just played the exact metagame strategy, like you are fucked. So I'm beating the metagame for like a comfortable win rate. I think I showed it on stream. The last time I'm winning for about adjusted win rate is 4.2 big blinds per 100 right now, over the last year or so. So since I basically started streaming. And that's like a pretty solid win rate for really high stakes games, and so like you just can't think like the metagame thinks. Again, if you do that, you break even and then you pay rake, so you lose. So you have to think. You have no choice but to try to think independently, and yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I first learned about metagame maybe 20 years ago when I was a competitive Magic the Gathering player.
Oh shit!
Are you familiar with Magic?
Yeah, of course. I know what Magic cards are. I know what Magic the Gathering is.
Yeah, it was more than a hobby. I mean, there's some serious money in it when I was 16, 17 years old. But metagame was important because it was like if there's 3 different deck types, think of it as paper, rock, scissors. If everybody's playing this rock deck type, you got to play the paper, and you got to actually go around and figure out what the metagame is in Ohio or wherever you're playing a tournament. Sure. And you have to counteract that, and that's where the edge is.
Yeah, sure. If everyone's playing Ravager, you got to play like mono green, like anti-artifact. There you go.
There you go. Yeah. Very applicable.
I know a little bit about that game.
Yeah, it's a great game. I just haven't really played in 20 years.
I haven't played it in a long time, but I mean, I'm a little bit familiar with it.
Yeah, that's great. I want to talk to you a bit about. You are an ambassador for Party Poker. I'm an ambassador for ACR.
Sure.
Do you feel like the two companies are in direct competition with each other, or there's enough players to go around?
I don't know enough about the competitive dynamics between the two sites, so I don't know that. I would say that they definitely compete. Like they both offer the same service. So like by definition, I would say that they compete. but unless like they're just in two different markets entirely. I don't know like what the overlap is. This is what I mean. I don't know enough. So I don't know about the overlap in the markets between those two businesses. But you can also be frenemies, right? Like you can cohabitate, and it can be better to coexist and like what do you mean? How is that possible? Well, they're in a fixed market share world. That can't be true, right? Like so, for example, if there's no possibility of really growing the game, if you like today's poker players are fixed and they're never going to grow, then it's just a zero-sum competition, period. And that's true for any two companies any two businesses that occupy the same space. But if ACR's marketing spend grows the total number of players that are currently playing poker, and if Party Poker's marketing spend also does that, then you start to get to some like kind of frenemy space where like Party Poker existing and spending money and growing the game is a net positive for ACR, and so like it can get kind of complicated. And it can get more complicated than that. But like I said, I don't know enough to know exactly how things break down. But I would say there are benefits to both companies existing to as far as one for the other, but they're also competitors for sure. So
cool. The when COVID hit, of course, the MTT numbers were doubling all the guarantees. It was crazy. Everybody's at home playing poker. It was great. That's really died down with all the series, and I'm sure you know a lot about this, having a stable.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on scheduled MTTs that continue to miss their guarantees? What's the correct way to not just keep cannibalizing them and keep lowering the guarantees? Is there a better way of solving that problem?
Whew, you bringing some intellectual side to this conversation. That's a good question. I wish I had a good answer for. So I'm going to think about it for a second. I'm still not going to come up with a good answer. I'm going to hedge right ahead of time and say that my answer is going to suck. But, oh man. So what would you do? Because
it's like catching a falling knife because people will play it.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, I think that one of the things that the sites can do, and Party's done actually a really good job of this, is you can try to push the fact that it's like, you can try to make it really public that there's an overlay. Because I do think that just like chronically dropping the guarantee is like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like the tournament gets less good. Like that essentially, like let's say the tournament is better when it's bigger and it's worse when it's smaller. So the tournament, as the tournament shrinks, it's getting worse. And if the tournament is chronically getting worse, that's not exciting for anybody. It's not exciting for the people who are the casual players. It's not exciting for the pros. So that's not exciting for anybody. So. And it's not good for the business long term, right? So you're trying to stifle that. So one of the things you can do is just raise awareness about how good an overlay is. Like what does an overlay mean, and try to publicize that because it's not really done. Like I try to do it but I'm obviously like I say obviously, but like I have a little bit more technical understanding about like how to profit from poker. Period. So I'm in a position where using my stream I can get the word out about like what an overlay does and like what it means. I think poker sites in general, I don't think this would be like negative for any poker site if another one did this, but I think poker sites in general communicating what it means when a tournament overlays and really trying to increase their player base's knowledge around that would help eliminate the problem of overlays, which would make for better tournaments. And so essentially, like, what do I mean by that? Well, let's just say I'm not going to use accurate math. So if you fact check me on the math, then I'm going to be wrong. But let's just say you have a tournament and it overlays by $5,000, and let's say the tournament was like an $11 tournament, and the total so it's 10 plus 1. So $10 is the tournament buy-in, $1 is the fee that you're paying to the site to host the game for you, and let's just say that the tournament collected $5,000 in total from the players, okay? So there were 5,000 players in the tournament. And so that means a $50,000 guarantee, I guess. Now, let's just say they guaranteed $55,000. So the total price will add up to 50 in terms of the money that was in play. But there was actually 55 that the site promised would be in the pool. That means that the site just gave their $1 fee back to all of the players collectively. That's essentially what just happened. There is no fee being charged for this game. It is rake free. That's a great game to play. If you can play a game where where essentially there's no fee being charged, that's amazing. You just got this, poker site just hosted this game for you for free. But I don't think people actually understand that that's what's happening. And I don't think that they understand that that's good for them. Like that essentially they'll be able to gamble for longer on the same amount of money. Now, if things were to get more extreme, let's just say instead of $50,000 in the total prize pool, there was only $45,000 in the total prize pool. That would effectively mean the site is paying the players $5,000. So they got, right, they didn't get their fee. Instead of getting their fee, they had to pay all of the players a fee, essentially, for playing. Now, does that mean that on this particular game, the players are going to make money? Like you as individual Jeff, are you going to win this game? No. Like, it doesn't mean shit as far as that goes. But long term, this is a very attractive bet for Jeff to be making, right? And I think that if the sites could raise awareness about the fact that this was an attractive tournament for Jeff to be playing for the reasons that I just articulated, they would do a better job of avoiding these tournaments, these types of things from happening, because people would be incentivized to play. They'd be like, oh, look, there's an overlay. I'm going to play this one. Or, oh, look, like this tournament's massively overlaying, so I'm in there. And I don't think there's enough awareness about like how that works amongst the general population to eliminate, to help, but basically, yeah, I think that you could do better as a poker site if your player base knew that better or understood that better. So
it seems like there's two trains of thought on the average poker player when it comes to an overlay. It's either, wow, the site's failing, they can't even get the prize pool all the way filled. What about this extra money? Like, they're uneducated as to what an overlay is. And there's the other side that says, oh, overlay, free money, I'm going to have a better ROI. They're adding money to the prize pool. Of course I'm going to play that. And if more people realize that, the problem should effectively take care of itself until there is no overlay. So what's the saying? The markets auto-correct for, there's some stock term. The markets balance themselves out. Or,
the markets will find an equilibrium and basically sort it out.
There we go.
But I think also the sites can acknowledge that, and I don't know, like I don't know anything about like, ACR schedule. I'm not referring to the party poker schedule. This is not a criticism of anything that the sites are doing. But you can acknowledge that that like without the series going on, or like with people going back to work or like whatever, that you might have to concentrate the tournaments from where they are now. So if up till now you've been able to run 5 320s a day at various times, that's a lot of 320s, by the way. So I'm picking a completely unrealistic schedule. But if you've been able to run 5 320s a day on like a Wednesday, maybe given today's realities, you run 3. You just run 3. And so instead of like chronically decreasing the overlay on all 5, which is a fucking horrible strategy in my opinion, you just eliminate 2 of them, you make it 3, and then you get a critical mass in all 3 of them, and then those 3 are just bigger tournaments.
That makes a lot of sense. You kind of just cut the fat, limited the offering, so people are more forced, I guess you could say, to play these specific events. Yeah,
people get funneled into like 3 great games as opposed to like 5 meh games. And it's better for the site because the site doesn't have to pay an overlay. And from the perspective of the players, it's not worse because like they're getting bigger, quote unquote, better tournaments, and those are just gone. Like, you just got rid of them. It's fine. Now there's a profit hit. You're not hosting those tournaments. You charge a fee for running those tournaments, so that sucks. But it's probably better than paying an overlay, and it's certainly better than this like kind of feeling of wasting away over time of just like, okay, this week it's a 50K guarantee, next week it's 45, next week it's 40, then it's 35. Like, eliminate 1 or 2 of the tournaments and like get the critical mass back in like whatever the tournaments are that are running. Like, I'm not a game playing schedule ecologist. Like, this is like you can study this shit as far as I understand it from like a business perspective. They should be doing that, like whoever the site is. But if you can think about it well, and you'll be able to think about it better if you're a player. But if you can think about it well, then there are lots of things you can do. I think lots of levers. But one of them is, like I said, so my 2 things. 1, increase the knowledge level of your average player around what an overlay is and how to take advantage of it. And 2, increase the critical, maybe decrease the total offering, increase the critical mass in the tournaments that you do want to run by eliminating some of the other ones, right? So those would be my 2 answers.
Makes a lot of sense. I will pass that along to ACR. Make sure they take notes on that. It makes a lot of sense because they're with like I said, the numbers are going down. I think across all poker sites after all the normal series and people going back to work. It only makes sense. You just got to regroup, keep the ship afloat, and adjust for new times.
Sure.
Okay, a few more small things that came to mind when I was thinking about this conversation we were going to have today. Sure. The just to when you first started streaming, I noticed you were always like typing in your bets, like 65,111. And now you just use like 30% sizings. You never really type anything in. Can you tell us why you changed?
Yeah, so I mean, like I used to type my bets in because that's what I've always done. I've always typed my bets in, and that's because I played hypers the most. So that was the format that I grinded the longest, that I was most profitable and made the most money from. So now, why is that relevant? Well, in hypers, you have 500 chips. So that's what you say in the format that I played. So that means every one chip actually matters, right? Like every one chip, every 10 chips, like every 11, 15, whatever. Like, typing it in matters, particularly since you don't always have 500 chips. You might lose half your stack, and now you have 250 chips, maybe you have 200 chips, maybe you have 100 chips. And so like the difference between 10 and 11 is actually like significant. It's 10% bigger bet or whatever. So I'm used to typing them in down to like the 1. Like that's what I was used to. And so just habit had me typing the bets out altogether. But it's just stupid. So, but what ended up happening is like I was trying to stream and play. And when you're dealing with, this isn't an exaggeration either. I just took third in a tournament on Sunday. And the tournament I took third in was a $55 tournament. And that tournament had I think at one point I personally had like 500 million chips. I had 500 million chips. If you have 500 million chips, how relevant is the last one? It's just doesn't matter. Like how relevant is the last 500 chips? It doesn't matter either. How relevant is the last 1,000? I mean, it's a zilch. Like it just doesn't, it doesn't change the bet size. So, I had to get used to tournaments, right? Like I wasn't playing tournaments before. I was playing sit and goes. I was playing hypers. I was playing high stakes hypers. And so that format just had me typing out my bets all the way through. And then, it's just something I just needed to drop basically as I transitioned. It didn't add anything in this format. It adds a lot there, but it doesn't add anything here. So,
okay, that makes a lot of sense. I think the two reasons I thought of were maybe you did a few misclicks where you typed in an extra number a few times. And you're like, this shit ain't worth it, or you thought like someone could picking up a tell on you. Like if you made it 104. Ended it in 175 compared to 111. They're like, oh, he's stronger with this sizing. It's not completely balanced.
I mean, it's possible that someone was like doing something like that. That's not why I changed it. I mean, it's not impossible for there to have been some kind of pattern. I don't think that anyone that's like really good, I don't think was like analyzing my game in that way. I'm just not playing enough. Like I'm not playing against, I don't know, pick your like high stakes pro who's really good. I'm not playing against pads enough, right? For pads to like break down like Jordan's bet sizing and like try to optimize a strategy to like exploit it or something. So even if it was possible, I don't think anyone was like going to bother with it, to be honest. It's just too much work and there's not enough money in it. I used to do stuff like that. But that was when I would play I was playing 6 max hypers, and I would play against the same 5 guys, not exaggerating, like 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. Like we were going to war. I mean, like those days were like everyone was younger and we could just play all the time. And so in that world, it makes sense to just like go deep on like Shubal Invlad, right? So Shubal Invlad would people were like, is this guy a bot? He's playing like 16 hours a day sometimes. And he would play, like, when I say 16 hours a day, I don't mean like, oh yeah, lots of people play 16 hours a day. Yeah, this guy doesn't take Saturdays or Sundays off, ever. Like, he just, 7 days a week for like 4 months, and he's playing like 16 hours a day for like, I don't know, like a week. And then like maybe he'll play like 10 hours a day for like the next week or whatever. He's always on. And so, if you're, and there's only 6 of us in the game, and he's always there. So, of course, like, how profitable is it to study him? Well, that's an entirely different world than playing tournaments, right? Where you might play with Jeff Boski, if you're lucky and you're trying to play with him because you like watching his streams and stuff. You might play with Jeff on ACR in tournaments that he plays on his table, like once a week, maybe once if that, like not even. I'm playing with this guy 16 hours a day for 7 days. Like, I'm gonna try to study. If we were in a casino setting, I'd be looking at his eyebrows and be like, what happens when his eyebrow moves? Does that mean something? You know what I mean? Like, does his hair stand up? Like, I mean, everything about his timing, and it wasn't just Shubal Invlad. Back in those days, it was like Shubal Invlad, AY, Smell the Onions. Like, these guys were just Parker, Parker Talbot, like Tonka, all of us. Like, we were just all there all the time. So studying players really deeply was profitable, right? So.
Yeah, I know you mentioned that when you said the player pool was so small, it's worth it to really get to know them. But when you're playing with thousands of people, even in the high stakes, it's just not worth it to dig that deep.
Yeah, it's a different game. Like literally, it's a different game, and so like, it just doesn't make as much sense.
Yeah. Cool. That's about all I got.
Awesome, brother. Yeah. It's been fun, dude. I mean, it's been a great conversation. You had some sick questions, especially the one about game selection. That was the one about how to do the sites. I was like, oh shit, I want to come up with a smart answer for this. That's a great question. So
thanks. Yeah, just some stuff came to mind when I was taking a bubble bath last night. Relaxed.
Nice.
And
sure.
Got to enjoy life, right?
That's right. All right. So
okay.
Go ahead. Go for it. You got another one?
No. Well, I got some marginally controversial ones. If I know you're not scared of no controversial questions.
I mean, like, you go ahead. I mean, if I don't want to answer, I'll just bow out. If I'm scared, if I'm scared, I'll just hide under the desk. We're good.
No answer. I don't know if you want to talk about this. We can always edit it or whatever.
Sure.
I know you've spoken greatly about your investments, portfolios, diversification, all that cool stuff. But then I know you mentioned you don't have any Bitcoin.
Right.
I would have bet against that. You seem like such a smart guy. A lot of smart people are in the Bitcoin space.
Sure.
Do you want to share with why you're not invested in Bitcoin at all?
Sure. So first we'll go through the Bitcoin history. So Bitcoin history for me, I started accumulating Bitcoin when it was at like $80. And so I bought, I don't know, 40,000 or so when it was at $80. So I had a position. And what I was doing was I didn't just buy it and just like, my plan wasn't like, this is going to infinity. So I'm done. That wasn't it. There were, at the time, lots of different sites that were like exchanges that were being kind of populating around and stuff. So I was arbing it. So I was buying Bitcoin on site A and then selling it on site B, and there was a spread between site A and site B, and then there was also a spread on Skype. So Bitcoin is very popular amongst poker players, still is, and people were willing to buy and pay like a very significant premium for Bitcoin that they didn't have to basically because they didn't want to go through the work of setting up an account on an exchange, buying it on the exchange or whatever, getting it into their wallets and sourcing it themselves. So they would pay a VIG, and the VIG would be quite high, the premium that they would pay. So maybe Bitcoin's worth $80 and they're willing to pay $84. I mean, serious premiums. Maybe they're willing to pay $84 for one Bitcoin, but maybe they're going to buy 10,000. So you're making kind of a lot. And, you're making $400 in that instance. And, so, that's a lot of money, and you can just do that transaction in like 30 seconds. And there wasn't that big of a shortage of those types of transactions. So in premiums alone, like between the sites and the Skype group, I made $40,000 in a month. So in 30 days, I made my entire exposure back in premiums. Now during that, I was doing that, and Bitcoin was on a tear at the time. So it went from over a 3-month period. So I kept doing this a little bit. But I was also playing. I started to get Supernova Elite, so I started to put in a lot of volume at the time. So over a 2 or 3 month period, Bitcoin I think went from maybe it was like 140 or something like that, or 160, and it went to like 500. And I started to get very uncomfortable because now I had a very big position, and I didn't really want a very big position. And the size of the position I had in relation to the premiums I was generating was modest. And the amount of money I was generating, even though it had only been a few months. Skype was very sensitive, so the premiums had shrunk on Skype, and the premiums were starting to shrink on the sites that I was arbitraging on as well. So basically the money I was making was going down from trading the Bitcoin, right? The currency was going down, and the position size was growing dramatically. So I started to exit the position, and I started to shrink it kind of rapidly. And I made a few $100,000. That was the net gain from the whole thing, and I had something like $80,000 or $100,000 left on Mt. Gox, and Mt. Gox was a very popular exchange. It was one of those exchanges that I was arbitraging on. It was the biggest one. It was the most reputable one at the time, and it got fucked, and all of my money got taken by crooks essentially, and that left a very sour taste in my mouth. And I'm human, and so like when you know put your hand on the stove and get burned for 80 G's, it's difficult to just be like, yeah, let's jump back in. And now you could say, well, net you made like $220,000 or something. Like, what are you talking about? It's like, yeah, that's true, but that I felt so gross after where I got stung for that like I've just kind of I walked away from Bitcoin, and like that has been a very 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 expensive walk because Bitcoin today is at like 10,000 plus. So had I not walked, I would be Bitcoin rich, but unfortunately, I'm not, and I've done well with everything else, and I did well with Bitcoin. But that's the kind of story about me and cryptocurrency. So like I made a bit, I made some money, but not nearly what I could have made. I made a good return, but not nearly what I could have made. And yeah, and then as far as like okay, well that's great. So like you're reasonable. Like why don't you just jump back in? I mean, it doesn't really have like that whole intrinsic value thing. Like it's difficult to like peg it. I mean, people peg it at 7 figures, it's like a million. People peg it like 800,000. You can do the math and figure it out if you want. Some people have done that. I haven't read anything about it in a long time. But there's just something about paying. Like there's just something about paying 10 grand for something when I know is it $80, man? It's just different. It's weird. So yeah, I'm not purely rational, and I have a difficult time with it. But again, the reason I was able to hold it in the first place was because I was able to do it risk-free. I was able to make a $40,000 bet, observing the market and things on Skype, and like also on Bitstamp, because that was one of the networks I was exploiting. Bitstamp, Mt. Gox, and then also there was a Russian Bitcoin exchange, but I can't remember the name of it right now. And so that opportunity meant that I could get into a Bitcoin position, and after 30 days have no risk because I would just make it all back in premiums, right? And that's actually what happened. That doesn't exist now. So now if I put on $1 million bet or a $400,000 bet or something, and it goes to zero, I'm going to lose my $400,000. Like there's no, right? It's just not the same. It's not the same opportunity that it was for me when it was at $80. So that's also been a part of it. It's just a bet. It's just like it's a directional bet on like Bitcoin. And I don't know enough about it to like bet aggressively in one way or the other. So. Okay, well. That's a long story.
No, that was a good story, and a lot of people will definitely feel your pain on that one. But I think that amongst Bitcoiners, like the number one rule nowadays is like never keep a substantial amount on an exchange because you don't really control the keys; they're not responsible. Sure. So if you just put it on a hardware wallet and cold storage, it's under your control. Sure. I mean, and I was just wondering. I mean, it doesn't really matter to me, but I just think it's such an easy way to transmit currency, especially in your situation with the horses. I mean, I don't know how you move money around or pay them. Seems like Bitcoin could be a good option, or just for yourself in the position you're in, just as like 1-2% of your net worth. Yeah, just put it in Bitcoin and just set it aside.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about it, especially like the 1 or 2% thing. That's the thing that makes, I think, the most sense. As far as like the way that we move and transact, do we use cryptocurrency on occasion to transact? We do. So the business does use it in that, but I don't have a position. So it's just like, has in the last 24 months, has Jordan had a 6-figure position in Bitcoin? Yes. How long did it last? 24 hours. So, maybe 48 hours. So it hasn't, it's like I said, it's not a position.
Okay, that's very understandable. The bitter taste in your mouth after that going down, just you can't really get that money back. And it really hit home when you said it was $80 then, it's $10K now, it's the same fucking Bitcoin. Why am I paying it? I feel the same exact way about Magic cards. Like I had the sickest set of Magic cards when I was 16, 17 years old, and I sold them all for like $5,000 or whatever. Mm-hmm. That same set would be worth $1 million right now.
Yep. Well, sick. You were playing back in the days.
Yeah.
So you have like an alpha beta set. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a full mint beta set I sold for $2,800 because I needed to buy a truck. I'm like,
oh fuck, that's a real expensive truck. That's a real expensive truck.
I had to put it down. I had no credit. I had to put money down on the truck. It was tough, and I just got out of the game. Just cold turkey, sell everything. I'm done. Got to go to college. Got to go
do real life shit.
But yeah, and going right back to that real quick was I ran into some of the highest, most famous Magic players at the World Series of Poker last year.
Okay.
And they sell like millions of dollars of like art and collectibles and stuff. And I, went out to dinner with them. We hit it off. We're good friends now. And, they're still selling vintage Magic cards, a card I could have bought for $50 in 2000 is now $5,000.
Yeah.
And I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I remember when I had that card. That'd be sweet to have, but I'm like, not $5,000.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
100 maybe. Inflation.
Sure.
And there's a lot of people thought Magic was just going to die, and that's like another reason I sold all my cards. So moving out of my life, need money, done with the Magic game,
sure.
And you can't look back and get upset about a missed opportunity because you never know what the future is going to be.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know what's going to happen. So you just try to make the best decision, at the time that you made it, and at the time that you made it, it looked like a good decision. Sometimes those decisions are really, really bad. I mean, anybody who trades, anybody who buys stocks, anybody who invests, anybody who gambles, who does anything like that, like, there's going to be just like massive, like, you're going to have a friend who's like, hey, do you want to buy half of this tournament? And you'll be like, nah, I'm good, man. And then he's going to fucking win it. I mean, I've dropped people. I dropped someone who I think I can't remember. I think he chopped the fucking 5K WCoop main and then final table the WSOP main the same year that I dropped him. The same year I dropped him. So so he did it in the following as those tournaments ran, but I dropped him, and then so the WCoop came first. Dropped him in maybe August or something. WCoop came first, and then the next year would have been WSOP. But it's the first WSOP since we dropped him. He final tables the WSOP main. After basically splitting the 5K WCoop main. It's just like, yeah, there goes, infinite dollars, infinite, and we dropped him in makeup. So he was in with me for 100-ish, 100 something like that. And then I was wrong. Should have kept him. Guy goes on and just smashes. So that's just life.
I feel like you could just talk for hours about the backing industry, and I think people would find it very interesting, just the risk involved and like you said, the trust and just the emotions. I mean, I backed a few people for a while, and it was just too emotionally taxing, and I didn't like the swings. I didn't like the lack of control. It's like you have children. It's to take care of them. You got to make sure they're not fucking up.
Sure.
So I give you nothing but props for maintaining such a huge stable after all these years and being successful. I'm sure you got it. You're a very smart guy. You got it all worked out. I'm sure you got people working for you, so you're not just a one-man show.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've got help, and that is necessary. Anytime you're doing something at scale or trying to scale at least a little bit, you're gonna need some help. So I've got help. I've got great people, and they definitely help. But it's also like you say, it can get quite emotional. As far as things you have to do, people when you first stake someone, the idea is that the guy can pay his bills, right? But obviously if you stake someone long enough and he's good and he loses long enough, he can't pay his bills anymore. And that's not his fault necessarily, right? So you've got to come up with mechanisms for dealing with that, whether it's loans or different things. So at various points I might have been responsible for paying 8 different people's rent, right? It just happens. So, backing is complicated. It's you're not it's not just this very simple financial transaction that's, I don't know, super clean, and you're going to stake me and you're going to get half my money, and that's what backing is. That's a really naive version of what it is. But it can be a lot more than that for sure. So
yeah, I've just seen all is the juice worth the squeeze? For me personally, wasn't. Just too much paranoia and stress, and
sure.
Unprofitable players or downswings, or like you said, I knew guys that were back that couldn't pay their bills too, and their backer would give them loans at double markup. Sure. It's geez, you're deeper in the hole now. I mean, the mentality, and I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here, but just for the audience to know everything that goes into it.
Yeah, sure.
It's tough, but that's awesome that you're one of the biggest staking organization there is.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how I stack up anymore. I don't know enough about the competitors. It's not there's published figures from all of the different institutions, right? So I don't know how the other guys are doing, but we've been in there. I've been at it the longest, I think, as far as I don't really know of players who predate me. Let me rephrase that. I know of no player who predates me. Alex Carr, Pokar, they were around before, but they kind of closed up when Black Friday came along and then reopened subsequently, right? So I predate them in the newest version of Pokar. I predate them. Pokar predates Pads and BitB, that whole organization. And as far as the other organizations, I don't want to necessarily just ramble off a list of names, but I predate almost all the ones that I know of. So there's nobody that's been doing it longer. I don't know as far as a current scale of operation. Anybody with money can give someone poker, can give someone who plays cards money, and that person can then subsequently go gamble. So as far as people who stake the most people, there's probably some guy who stakes more people. Whether he's doing it at a profit or not is, I don't know. But yeah.
Here's a weird tangent that I often think about when people sell action on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's, what's the right word? It's almost greedy. I guess depending on their circumstance, if they're broke, they can't play the tournament. They're like, hey, I'm selling action to this 1K, 1.3 markup, buy a piece. I get the free market thing, but it seems like if you need to sell action, you should never sell at markup. I think that's just like selfish. You're begging to play this tournament and give me a premium for my right to play this tournament. I think that's like a flaw in how investors are losing money on people that they want to see do well, or they just feel bad for them. Or what are your thoughts about that?
Well, you can invest in people as a business, right? So for example, your stance would put people who have capital in a very privileged position, and it would put people who have skills in a very monopolized position. So, for example, if you have skills but no money, you need to sell tournaments, and so you're selling at no markup, which means you're also making no money. So let's just say you sold the whole thing, then you made nothing. You played for free. You worked essentially for free. So I was able, because I have capital, I was able to take advantage of Jeff Boski's skills to win money in these tournaments, and Jeff Boski got compensated $0 for it, and my enterprise is going to grow. And we're going to go fast. If you forbid selling at a markup, but people still sell, then everyone who invests is doing quite well. Now, from an ethics perspective, which is kind of more like what you're talking about, I agree that people should not sell anywhere close to what they win for. And what you have is people sell for way more than they win for, like way more. And I haven't called people out by name yet, but that might end up happening at various points. I might just be like, bro, you really think you're winning? And, I think Timex, is it Mike McDonald? I think he's got his site where he sells people short, right? And he's just like, you really think you're he's winning for that? Like, nah, he's not. Like, we'll sell you action and we'll do it at cheaper or whatever. So I think that he's like, that's a thing. So people are selling at rates that are unrealistic, and people who Joe Public is getting fleeced by a lot of people. I actually put out a video about that also on BBZ Poker YouTube channel, where I went over some criteria for how to buy action. This is a video, I think we called it you're buying action wrong, and the video is all about different the markup range that I think is acceptable, where I think it's reasonable, what's unreasonable, supported by numbers. So I made the video a while ago, but I think it was 31.5% or something. Is the most amount is basically if you take my high stakes players and you drop them into low stakes games, how much money do they win? Because that's best case scenario for an investor, right? You take a high stakes player, you drop them into a low stakes game. That's that is unbelievably good for the investor. How much does the player in that instance, right? As far as win rates go, ROI, right? How does the player do? The player wins for 31.5%. So if you see a tournament being sold for anything close to 30%. There's no way that guy's winning for that. That's what my high stakes killers beat low stakes, weak fun players for, the micro games for. That's just, it's not fair if someone's charging 30% plus markup or something. And, they'll be like, oh, well, it's a live tournament. And it's like, well, is this player really beating a live tournament, a live 10K, for more than my high stakes killers are beating $11 tournaments for? I mean, and then what kind of sample do I have to base these numbers off of? Hundreds of thousands of games. Hundreds of thousands of games. So this is real fucking data. This isn't some guy's opinion. And so, I don't think people, I think when you see someone charging something or it's a turbo and they're charging 20%, that's just, that's, if to the extent that that's being portrayed as an investment, that's stealing. If that's being portrayed as someone buying a sweat, that's a transaction. I mean, I can't, it's not, I'm not God. It's not my place to criticize that. But you need to communicate, in some way, this is not an investment. You're probably going to, this is not profitable long term. In my opinion, you should be saying that. And I think that if someone who was doing that said, if you do this and you do this on a repeated basis, you're guaranteed to lose money in the long run. The pool of people who would buy that action would shrink, which means that player is taking advantage of the perception that it's profitable for the public to do that, and it just isn't. So.
Yeah, the common argument is who cares what markup they sell at? It's a free market and it's an entertainment cost. If I want to gamble on them, it's a gamble. Who cares if they're profitable or not?
Yep, that's exactly right. And so like that's the counter argument. And so if that's true, then like I guess that's fine. But I do think there are lots of people who are portraying themselves as being profitable investments at the markup they're charging. And that's stealing. So that's where I have a problem.
And the other thing is, if you're a well-known poker player and you go to Twitter to sell, half your action in a WSOP 1K or something, you have to realize that that person has already contacted like all their friends, and they all said no. So you're
Correct.
like the last. It's their last resort. That they've all their friends who are the most likely to buy action from them have already said, "Nah, bro. You're not profitable. I'm not going to do this." And they're like, "Okay, fine. I'll just go to some random people on Twitter."
The bottom line is that, like, at the markup that they're charging, unless it's like a $100,000 tournament and they need to raise like real capital, like lots and lots and lots of money. If it's like a $1,000 tournament or a $500 tournament or something, and you're getting it on Twitter, you're getting it at, like, almost for sure at a markup that they're people that know them, that know the industry, wouldn't pay. It's not that they wouldn't necessarily invest in this player at some markup. It's just that the markup he wants to get from you, I'm not willing to pay. So instead of coming to me, he's going to you. Like, that's the way that works. And there's also, like, everybody would, most people would prefer to deal with one person. It's just easier, right? Like, I send you all the money and then you send it all back. And so, like, when someone's choosing to deal with 8 people, it's because they're trying to collect like an increased markup from those 8 people.
Yeah, and I mean, if some of the trolls out there are thinking I'm a hypocrite because I sell a random tournament or two on State Kings, it's not that I need to sell these tournaments. I'm doing it so you guys can watch the stream and sweat along, get a little 1% sweat at a reasonable, what I think is a reasonable markup. I just do 1.2 across the board. State Kings takes 0.1. I get 0.1. I guess I should just do 1.1 so I don't even profit off the State Kings if it's just purely for the sweat, but we'll adjust that in the future. I just think it's a good platform for you to be able to watch the Twitch stream and sweat along for some, 600s or 2650s or $200 WSOP events, whatever.
Sure.
So before you start calling me a hypocrite that's broke, I'm definitely not broke.
That's a real common thing in the YouTube comments is just like, oh, they're like, this guy is like not playing a 5K like this day, like, oh man, he must have gone broke. It's like, dude, are you serious? Like, I've been doing this before I started streaming for like 10 years. You think you caught me at the time I went broke? Like, you just miraculously showed up and I decided to televise the damn thing anyway? Like, we're still streaming? And like, what are you talking about? But it's crazy how often people are just like, yeah, man, you went broke. I saw this. There's one of my comments. This guy like had this elaborate story about like me talking to people and shit. And he's like, yeah, I'm like, this is hilarious. He's like talking about me talking to people about being broke and like getting money from people. And I'm just like, who do you know that I know that's lying? Like, what are you talking about? But it's crazy. People, like, the shit that people write, I mean, it's like, I don't know. The YouTube comments, bro, like, the YouTube comments are nuts.
Oh, it's incredible. I actually saw the beginning of your stream on Sunday, and I think someone, you even have the command for the most common question. Why no 5K, bro?
Yeah, exactly.
Ramen noodle night? What's going on?
Yeah, man, I had to. Like, the command for those that haven't attended the stream on Twitch, it's like, blah, 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 blah. No, I'm not broke. Like, that's how it ends. And it's just like, because, people, like, why aren't you playing a 5K? I'm like, here you go. Like, make it easy. Make it easy. No, I didn't lose all my fucking money. Like, shh, just chill. Like, So,
and it's funny. I think it's to get to you. You're like, man, I didn't have trolls in my life until I started streaming. Now that they're everywhere. I mean, what's going on? Yeah,
this is a nuance or a feature of public life. Like, I didn't stream. Yeah. I wasn't on YouTube. I wasn't on Twitch. I wasn't on Instagram. I wasn't on Facebook. I wasn't on Twitter. And like, so all of the people who did business with me, like, we try to structure win-win relationships. So, like, for the most part, we people are happy and stuff. If someone gets upset, we deal with it. So it's like it's a one-off. It's rare, and then we try to fix it. And like, you can't fix it on YouTube and you can't fix it on Twitter. So now it's just a whole different world of people who are just like, man, I love watching just because I hate you so much. It's like, Jesus, like, I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently that's a thing. Like, the anti-sweat is real. the anti-sweat is a real thing. That's a phenomenon as far as I'm concerned. And I had 0 anti-sweat people in my life before the public side of this opened up. And it's, like I've talked a lot to Ape Styles about it too, like John Fleet, because he's thinking about doing something comparable to what I'm doing, and like starting to open himself up a bit and stream and do some other things. He's a badass, so if he does, it'll be great. And he's like, I don't know if I want all that other shit that you got that came with it, bro. And I'm like, I don't know if you want it either, man. Like it's a real thing. Like there's a definite upside for sure. Like on net, like I like the fact that I did it, but like there's a trade-off. I mean, like you're a human. You don't like it when people say, you look like a cancer patient and you're ugly as shit. And I don't know. Like we keep going. Like there's just the things that people over time get said. And like you don't want to read that. Like you read it and it's like, oh, damn, yeah, I was having an off day. You start to think that, and then you start to think that, and you're like, you start to feel bad. And you're like, fuck, man. And then pretty soon you're like, I gotta stop reading these YouTube comments. I can't read this shit, man. I'm gonna be miserable. So yeah, that's a part of it. That's a part of it, no doubt.
Yeah, I know when I started my YouTube channel 4 years ago, I was shocked by the amount of hatred there is out there. It's just like but the way they win is for you to respond. So your best play is not to respond or just block them. Like I would block people from YouTube who I just thought had no redeeming qualities. If you come into my YouTube, if you post a comment that's just some horrible shit, are you going to change? Are you going to just one day be like, oh, nice bluff, bro. Great video. Have a good day. No, they're just horrible trolls. That's their whole motivation in life. So you can't let that get to you or else they win. I kind of did the same thing when I started my Twitch channel a few years ago. If they just come in the chat, it's pretty simple. No personal insults and no negativity. We're here to have a good time, not start fights, not talk politics, not, insult my play or my appearance or whatever, my bankroll status, whatever it is.
That's a good policy.
The best way is just to ban people. I know it's counterintuitive. You want viewers, but I'd rather have a quality, conversation going on than just people arguing with the troll that's, saying, oh, they'll just straight up make up stuff. They'd be like, Jordan owes me $500 from 2 years ago, this deadbeat. And you're like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
I defend myself. It's never happened.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, they do make stuff up, and it is crazy. And I agree with you that you should just ban. And I was actually slow to ban in the beginning because of what you just said, where it's like, you want numbers, and like when you're first starting it, it's like how much it's like a pain threshold, right? Like I want to grow, and like people are talking shit. I'm not from here. Like I'm not from Twitch. I don't do it much. So like I guess this is just what it is, and like how you grow the numbers. And it's just like no. It's not sustainable. If you got people that come in and they're just shitting on you all the time, and you keep them around, like you're gonna hate it, and then you're gonna quit, and then there's like no EV in it at all. So, just get rid of them, ban them. Just be quick too. Just like, oh, this guy's a dick. See you later. Totally agree.
Yeah, that's the best way. Even though I got a lot of shit from it, people, oh, Boski he banned me from my chat, and I'd be like, well, what'd you say? Let's take a look. What's your screen name? Oh, this is what you said. Do you think this is appropriate? Do I need you in my chat? No, we have a community here. We don't need a bad apple to ruin the bunch. So you're gone. There's plenty of dreams. Go make Jamie Staples or something. He might enjoy it. Who knows? Yeah.
Pick a different person. Sure.
Or yeah.
That's what I mean. Like, go pick a different person. Go watch someone else.
Yeah.
Like your Twitch stream, your YouTube channel. That's like your living room. You know what I mean? Like it's like another room in your house. Like this is my Twitch stream. It's my studio. Like however you want to think about it. Some guy comes in and he just like shits on the carpet. You're just like, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing? You can't shit on the carpet. Get out of here. And you just ban him. Like someone walks into your house and like, yo, you're a fucking asshole. It's like, this is my house. Get out of my house, man. You don't have to be here. I don't need you here. So yeah, you've got to ban people. Like kind of keep the environment clean for sure.
Yeah, I've used like the same example for like imagine like a high school house party. Everybody's drinking, having a good time, then just some troll comes in, starts peeing all over the couches and starts fights and shit. You're like, the fuck is this guy?
Yeah, exactly.
You're out of here.
Yeah, get out.
You're gone.
Yeah, totally agree. 100%. Got to do it.
But just tell Ape Styles that he's got to have some thick skin and to not take the negative comments personally. Like if he has like YouTube highlights or in the Twitch stream, 9 people say, oh, great play. You're my idol. Oh, great content. And then one person says, oh, you're fat and ugly, and I heard you stink. or whatever. And you're like,
sure.
damn, do I stink?
Yeah, exactly.
You start thinking, you're like, because you read it, you do feel it. A little percentage of you does feel it.
Of course.
Even though you shouldn't. It's like in your head.
Can't help it.
And that's how they try to get you.
Yep.
But
it works.
Can't let them.
It works. So you can't, it does work. So you just got to ban them because it works. The problem is everyone wants to be tough. And so it's like, yo, that shit doesn't affect me. Like, you got your arms crossed up here. You're like, yo, that shit doesn't affect me. I don't care. And it's like, yeah, you do. You're fucking lying. You do care. You do care. A little bit if you cares.
No, but you keep a great level-headedness on the stream. I don't really ever see you go off on the chat or, lose your cool. You're always pretty, clear and concise with your play and, talking to the chat. Well, there was when someone asked if you worked out or.
Oh, that was funny. That was funny. Yeah, some guy called me out. I said I'd bench I think it was like 200 like a year or two ago, and I was lifting that when I was with Ape Styles. That was what we did. It was Ape Styles' his trainer, a guy named Adam, and I did that for like a couple reps once. And so I was like, when at my peak, I've hit 200, and since then, today, I said specifically today I could not do it. And he's like, you've never been able to do it, and you're lying. I'm like, who the fuck are you? I'm like, I got weights right here. Like, I'm not lying. Like, I do lift weights. I just don't, I'm just not benching right now. So I picked the fucking weight up, and I was like, bro, like there's weights in my office. Like, I do lift weights. I'm not lying. But yeah. I mean, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like, how do you know I'm lying? For all you know, I look like Arnold Schwarzenegger 5 years ago. People's bodies can change too, right? Like, I could have been jacked 5 years ago and then be scrawny now, and I could have been fat 10 years ago. You don't know that. I mean, I've actually looked pretty much the damn same the entire time. So spoiler, but you don't know. So
yeah, just the little things that they try to do to trigger you.
No, you saw that stream though. That's fucking hilarious. That's hilarious.
I saw that. And what was the other? The bench press thing, and then I think it was this Sunday, the beginning. Someone said, "Hey Jordan, do you work out?" And you read it, and you're like, "Okay, I know where this is going." The way you phrase. I know exactly.
Yeah, I was like, "Are you trolling?" I'm like, "This feels like a troll." If you're trolling me, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about social media and all this shit that we have to put up with. You get a sixth sense for when someone's baiting you. Yeah. I'll get messages on Twitter or something, and it'll just be like, "Hey, bro, can you do me a favor?" I'm like, "Oh fuck." Just random, no, this is not going anywhere good. It's going to be like, "Hey, stake me. Hey, send me $22 on ACR, please." I'm like, "No, we don't have. This is not a sustainable thing."
Yeah, everybody. I'll just send you $22, and then the next 20, I'll tell people that, and then the next 20,000 people that message me, I'll send them all $22, and pretty soon, I don't understand why that's so hard, but yeah, I get requests all the time on Skype, Discord, Instagram, whatever. Yo, I saw that you're playing super high stakes, bro. Can you send me $100? I'm like, yeah, sure. I'll just send $100 to every single person who asks, and then pretty soon I'll be on the fucking street with a tin cup. No problem, no problem. Of course, you're the person who deserves it the most too. If I was going to give $100 to one person, better send it to you who asked on Facebook, right? That's the best use of the $100.
It's a negative free roll too for that point. Exactly, that word gets out. Oh, Jordan's the transfer guy. You're low on funds. He'll take Venmo. He'll take Zelle. It's no problem. He's got all the time in the world, and the probability of us, reversing the transfer, almost zero. So Jordan might break even and lose, 5-10 minutes out of his day every single time.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's ridiculous.
It's a lose-lose situation. All right, and it's great conversation. 2 last questions.
Sure.
Are you concerned with I think you mentioned this a little bit before, but are you concerned with the prevalence of RTA and its mainstream adoption?
Yeah. So, concerned about mainstream adoption, of course. If that happened, that would be tragic. And very harmful to a staking business, a big staking enterprise that bets on poker players. So yeah, that would be concerning. I think it's still early, right? I think that I think it's very early, and I don't think anybody knows. I think that the sites, if they needed to, they could switch their business models a little bit. It wouldn't be some massive tweak. Everyone has to connect with a camera. If you want to play online poker for real money, you have to have a camera, and you upload your face. And if some guy's every time he plays his hand, he's looking at his fucking lap, then people freak out. People can report. There's just a little icon. You right click his name, you hit report player, and then it just like automatically runs through, like, you know, like the site can run through his history and like investigate the player or whatever, and it becomes very easy. The players are like policing people, and so like that's not some like massive change to the business model. When people go to casinos, they play base up, like, you know, you can see people that's how the game has historically worked. You know, my webcam's like a fucking $100 or something. It's not like these are like $3,000 devices or something. So if you want to make the jump to playing for like real money, let's say past $10 buy-ins, you know, you can play real money up to a certain level, but then past that level, you have to get a $100 webcam or like a $50 webcam or something. Like, I don't know what the cheapest ones are, and people can see you. And then, like, you know, if you're going like this every like 2 seconds, like, you know, and constantly looking at charts and constantly looking at some like RTA, right, something else, people would know. And they could just very easily submit a report. I don't think that that's necessary yet at all. But I think that that's not some kind of like that's not a pipe dream. Like, that's not some like, oh, that could never happen. Like, that's impossible to implement. Like, that's technologically, like, that's like reinventing Google. Like, fuck off. So if they wanted to do that, they could do that. And if it comes to it, they have multi-billion-dollar businesses, like business models, like, you know, PokerStars does, and like, you know, to the extent that whoever number 2 or 3 are in the space, I don't know what the valuation would be for their enterprises, but they're substantial. And so if they thought that it was necessary, then they could make it happen if they really believed it was necessary. So yeah, I mean, like, if it gets if it got to that point where and they didn't do something, then their business would die. So, like, I view that as, like, almost like I can kick the can down the road, like, or like kick the can up the ladder, if you will. Like, my responsibility for being like too concerned about something like that, it's not my problem. Like, it's their problem. And if the games are getting overrun, I'll withdraw my money. And so would anybody else, though, right? And I think that they know that, and so, like, it's really like a real thing that they have to think about. And but I don't think that RTA is where people would be concerned it is. I think it's one thing to do it in cash games, which are like fixed at 100 big blinds. It's another thing entirely to do it in tournaments. The software for the RTA would have to be much more sophisticated. I'm not even talking about like, oh, you can run sims in both formats. Of course you can, but you would have to traverse much more data. Like, you'd have to traverse a much broader subset of trees to do it in tournaments than you would have to do it in cash games. So, like, the software would still have to be more sophisticated. The implementation of it would be slower, or, you know, potentially slower. So, you know, cash games, like, you can just run the RTA at 100 big blinds, period, right? Tournaments, you'd have to run at 100, then 90, then 80, then 70, then 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, etc. You'd have to have solves for all of those stack depths, the ability to access all of that data using some kind of like, you know, if that data is stored in RAM or something, and you'd have to access it quickly, and these would be like big solves, particularly for some of the spots that might be more complex. It's just like not super easy in tournaments. And then you kind of like pair that with the fact that like taking that to scale might take some time, etc. And I just don't think I should be worried yet. And I'm not trying to be naive or anything, but, you know, does Limitless play people heads up for lots of money? Yes. Who's smarter, me or Limitless? Limitless. So like, is my money safe in like fucking tournaments and staking people and shit still? Probably, right? Do I think about it? Yeah, like, I mean, you know, it's front of the mind right now because of all the news stuff around it. But I'm not like in full panic mode, like retreat and like run with like, you know, my tail between my legs kind of thing either. So that's where I'm at. Oh, I think basically, I think there are solutions, right? Sites can implement solutions. I don't think what I put forward as an idea is like people would revolt against it and like say, no way would I ever play on camera. Like, okay, then don't play for fucking real money. And then I think it's like it's far away for, like, it's not around the corner for tournaments the way that it might be, if at all, in cash games.
I think if sites just beef up their security measures and you know, adapt to what's being used, and maybe even if of the people they catch, maybe they can make a deal with them, like in the movie Catch Me If You Can, where they get the best RTA guy.
Great movie.
Fucking hire him. Say, okay, show us how you did it. Show us how we can combat it. So, sure. You know, get right to the base of the problem. Like, oh, if this program's running on this computer, you might the geolocate, thermal image, Google Maps. Who knows? Who knows what type of technology is out there? Spy cams, webcams. I like that idea. I think as long as they're ahead of the curve or fighting against it, they can really limit how much RTA and cheating, however you want to call it, is.
Sure. Yeah, it's something it's a battle that can be fought. It's not like just like, oh, like pack up and go home. Like, it's not like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's just scary when people relate it to chess and like how, if you have the chess bot or whatever, you're just never going to win. It's not like that.
Well, it could. Yeah. So that's not a bad analogy. And so like it could end. It should end up like that at some point. It's more about a timeline. Keep in mind, I didn't say that like this is not eventually could possible to happen. But like how the software integrates with the poker client to provide the answers, and whether or not the poker client can monitor that is more where the debate is, and then how quickly someone can access answers on another computer, which back to my point, like if you just implemented webcams, like it wouldn't really. I feel like it would be very difficult to make that work. Like I feel like very very difficult.
Okay, makes a lot of sense.
That would suck though. I mean, like for a lot of people, like it would shrink the player pool. Of course, it's not like around the corner or anything either. But I think that like long term as a solution, it seems like that would make it very difficult for people who are cheating.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully sites just keep upgrading their security and keep doing a better job of, stopping the cheaters and making an example of them. I think most things in this world are under-punished. Like if you had more extreme punishments for, looting or rioting or stealing a loaf of bread or abusing a dog, if you made more of an example out of these people, I think it'd be less likely to happen in the future, kind of like an eye for an eye type of punishment. Yeah,
I think that's just factually true. I mean, like in a sense, like whether or not it's the punishment's not enough or if it's too much, like there are debates about I think certain things, but like you can make punishments extreme enough that like the behavior stops. Like of course, like you'd be like, hey, if you do this, I'm gonna fucking kill you, and it's like, all right, well, I guess I'm not gonna do it then. I mean, it's really it's really simple. So
public stoning, getting caned like that one guy 25 years ago.
You're going biblical. You're going straight biblical with it. You're going
like that famous caning thing. Remember that? It was in another country.
Dude, I think if we start opening up bad things that have happened in other countries, anything has happened. Like everything that's possible has happened.
You guys know what I'm talking. It was seriously 20 years ago, and I was like in elementary school or something. It was a huge deal. An American was in Peru or something, and he got caught doing something, and they caned him.
Oh
and
shit!
They're like, what the fuck? You can't do that to our American. It was like a big uproar. I don't know, but I'm all for stricter punishments, and there'll be less crime. It just makes sense. People they see if the juice is worth the squeeze. Rob a bank, might get caught. Life wouldn't be so bad in jail either. It's like a free roll, if they got nothing to lose.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm not here.
I like the juice worth the squeeze thing though. You're using that a lot, and it's been appropriate every single time. So I think you're hitting it out of the park with that. That's going pretty well for you.
Oh, thanks. And the last thing, I've talked to a lot of friends about this, and I've heard differing opinions. I'm anti-ghosting, but I know a lot of friends. They say, "Hey, you can't police it. Who cares?" Or, if you can't do anything about it, how can you enforce it? So it should be legal.
Sure.
What are your stance on ghosting and the ethics of it, or what we can do to stop it?
So it's difficult. That's a very difficult question. In my position, I think that once you get an operation to scale, like you can't ghost anyway, because it would just like destroy your reputation. If you were just like, for example, if I was out ghosting all the time and like turning over tons of horses, it would just circulate, right? So like, I don't think Pads ghosts at all. I don't think that BitB, the organization, I don't think they ghost at all. And I don't know anything about their organization. Never stepped fucking foot inside of it. But you just like, you can't run things to scale with like tons of people and like be ghosting. And everyone's like, how come you never heard about that guy ghosting? It's like, because he's not doing it. It's like Pads isn't doing it, and neither is ICuRaRook, and neither is Ape Styles. Like Ape Styles has been a part of Poker in the past, so that's why I mentioned him. And so like, go ahead.
Horses would come forward and out enough.
Yeah, well, you just can't do it. Like it just won't work. Like you just can't have like 100 fucking people and be doing it. So there are certain I don't want to I'm not going to pick out countries, but there are certain countries that have a bad reputation for doing it. I don't want I'm not going to go there, but there are certain countries that have a bad reputation for ghosting, and those countries probably are doing it because it gets around that's what they're doing. And then there are and as far as doing it and the whole policing thing goes, it's difficult when you're running a staking operation with 5 people. Because there's also just a personal component to that. You stake 7 people, you stake 8 people. When the guy goes deep, you get on call. No shit. You're excited. It's you and you stake 7 guys. It's your buddy. You're going to be on a call, and he asks you for a spot, and you've got a financial incentive to give him a good answer. So that's difficult to police. I don't think that it's difficult. First of all, it's difficult to police, and it's also understandable. Where it gets to be less so is when it's systematic and it's scaled. And someone's doing it on purpose. So some guy's got a stable, he's got 80 horses, and anytime anyone makes a final table, he takes over. And that's different. And so I think that if you think about that long enough, as the person who's in that position, what you're doing is cheating. So you shouldn't do that. And so I think context, that's why there's no shit. That's why the answers have sucked to date. People are you should allow it, you shouldn't allow it, it's gray. I don't know what you should do, blah 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 blah. It's because in some environments it's pretty understandable, and in other contexts it sounds a lot like cheating. So I don't know. I don't have a great answer, but I don't do it. I'm not ghosting when my guys make a final table. I'm not there. And when I said, when someone in BitB makes a final table, I don't think that Europeans there at all, 0%. And I don't think that I think the same thing is true about when a poker guy makes a final table. I don't think that. I think it might be Giraffe or someone, or I said, Ape Styles. I don't think that guy's there. Are there people that are there, on other guys? Yeah, sure. Does it happen sometimes? Yeah, it does. But it's like I said, difficult.
Yeah, it's good to know just how different stables approach that. I can definitely see both sides where you're so financially incentivized and so excited for your horse to finally get out of makeup. Of course, you want to help them as much as you can, but then at what cost? At how much equity are you taking away from your opponents by deceiving them and using an unfair advantage? So people have different ethical ways of looking at it. I'm not a ghoster, not pro ghosting. I've talked to friends that just say, yeah, nothing you can do. But I'm like, well, you can just not do it. That's what you can do.
Sure.
But other than that, that's you nailed every single question I had for you.
Well, I appreciate it, brother. Man, it's fun. So we can, I guess, we can wrap here, and it was a good time. So thank you very much for the invite and the conversation. It's a good idea. Should do it again.
It was great having you on. Make sure you guys check out bigbluffzinc on Twitch, BBZ Poker on the internet, and
right.
Big Bluff.
It's BBZ Poker on YouTube. Yeah,
on YouTube.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Free highlight videos. Free information. Information's power. He's giving you free information. Every Twitch video is just packed with entertainment, strategy, action, celebrations. He's got the blue juice. He's got the booms. He gets pumped up. He's got a heart rate monitor. I got the heart rate monitor hooked up too, just because I saw you do it. I was so impressed. Awesome. People love it.
It is fun.
Because people think I'm dead inside because I have a monotone, deep voice. But oh no, the heart does pump.
There you go.
We're pulling off that big bluff.
That's right. Yeah, people when I'm playing high stakes, man, my heart's going. You get deep into 10K and stuff. As you approach the bubble, and you got to make that jam, and it's oh shit, here we go. It's this guy's a robot. It's I'm not a robot, man. I'm not a robot. I might seem like it, but I'm definitely not. My heart's going. So.
Yeah, that's a great invention that you brought to the Twitch game. Really appreciate that. And I think the audience really likes it too. It's just the interactiveness. They can see you, they can hear you, but do they know your beats per minute? That really just shows it all. How scared are you that they're going to call? How excited are you that you're chip leader of the final table? Or you're just starting your session, you got 65 beats per minute, you just woke up, you're like,
I'm good. Yeah, it's awesome. It's fun. It adds another element to it for sure. And just it's another thing to talk about too, right? Sometimes if like particularly if you're like going deep, like it might be your last tournament, and so like there might just be normally quiet space, but like you've got your like you can be like, man, my heart was going like 5 minutes ago, man, that was insane. You just have something else to talk about. It's another element to bring into the stream, which is great.
Yeah, it's a genius idea. Really, really like that. And make sure you guys check out my man Jordan. He's got great content. I recommend you to everybody. So really appreciate what you do out there, and it was a pleasure talking to you today, Jordan.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it, man. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.